Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Okay, everybody, this is a very special moment because I'm having someone on who's been on the podcast before. She was the 7th episode of Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast, the 7th. And since then, we were doing the math. I've recorded like 300, I think we said 354, 351. I don't even remember now, but a lot since then. And this athlete and I have developed a great friendship and professional relationship over the last few years. And we've stayed in touch from different events we've bumped into each other at. And over the years, I've just followed her as a professional, but like I said, as a friend, and I have been wanting to have her back on for a very long time. And the fact that we're doing this right now is so awesome. So this is your Ms Bikini Olympia. She earned this title at the 2023 Masters Olympia, and she is currently 42 years old. She's going to be 43 in September. And she works as a lifestyle and posing coach, but she's also a doctor of veterinary and doctor of veterinary. Is that how I would say that?
Doctor of veterinary.
Yeah. Okay, veterinary medicine. I feel like I should know that by now. But you know, they have like memes like, ask me what my best friend does for a living, and you're like, So you guys know who I'm talking about. This is Dr. Jessica Wilson. Welcome back.
Hi. Oh my gosh. I want to like jump through the screen and give you a big old hug. And everybody out there, of course, because it's been a while. It's been a while in many ways.
I was your first podcast interview.
Yeah.
Since then, you've been interviewed about a million times, it seems. You know, it's like, hello, there she is again.
Yay. You started it all, though. You started it all. It was the, getting comfortable, knowing that you helped open a door for me, knowing that helped me learn, rather, my words, oh boy, that helped me learn, hey, I could do this. I can have a conversation. I can be interviewed and I can make sense, hopefully. It's a lot of fun. Reach. It's about that reach. And you were the one that kind of paved the way for me. After I started saying yes. So thank you.
I'm really glad. Yeah, of course. I don't think I had that big of a role in it, but I'm glad to hear that I had an influence in some way. I'm just so proud of you as just a person. I think you're amazing. So I'm glad to bring you on and talk about this because I first saw you compete in 2015, and that was at the for me, it was the NPC Iron Games, which was in conjunction with the pro show. Gosh. And that was the first time I ever saw you on stage, and I followed you ever since then. And I remember when I had you on in 2018, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually talking to her. Like, it was so awesome. And then over the years, just staying in touch and seeing how you've grown. I mean, I know both of us have now been competing for coming up on a decade. And I know that things change and evolve over those years. And I can't personally begin to describe how much my life has changed. I mean, I see competing as a lifestyle, really. And there were times where I think it was a way I identified myself for sure. But it hasn't been the only thing for me now for a while, which has been really refreshing. So I want to ask you a very big question, which is, who is Dr. Jessica Wilson outside of competing?
I love that question. I did not expect that question, actually. And it's very interesting that you mentioned, like the way that we have changed over the past decade. And oddly enough, kind of the roles reversed for me. Prior to starting competing, and even in the beginning, and just until kind of recently, I always identified myself by what I did. And I was Dr. Jessica Wilson, right? Like I'm a veterinarian, like veterinarian first. That's what I do. That's who I am. And then, oh yeah, I do bodybuilding. That's my other hobby. And then eventually I started calling it, that's my other job. Because it's something that I did, but it wasn't necessarily who I was. So I was able to kind
Mm.
of look at bodybuilding or look at the sport as like, oh, this is something I do, right? Like I'm not an athlete. I'm a doctor first.
Mm.
And then I'm an athlete second, or well, maybe not second, but in tandem, or just it's just different. Now things are a little different. I've learned a lot about myself for the past 10 years, but in a nutshell, yes, I am a veterinarian, um, focusing on small animals. I actually completed a whole residency in dentistry and oral surgery, which I know we had talked about in the
Yeah.
past. So I was doing that day in and day out. But then interestingly, I'm also discovering I'm all these other things, right? And we know we're all very multifaceted. I'm a wife. So I've been married to my husband, Chris, since I started competing. So he's only ever known this version of me. I'm a friend. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm many, many, many different things. I'm a coach, and that's something that I have nurtured and has evolved over time in posing. It's not just, oh, here are the moves, here's the look. It's
Mhm.
for me, it's deeper than that. It's a mentorship. It's helping women that are going to go on stage really, really tap into their it factor is kind of the term I've been using lately. Finding, what it is that fuels that fire on stage for them. So that's something that's even still evolving. Lifestyle coach. So yeah, I've dabbled in that a little bit. Even when I was practicing actively, medicine and being the competitor, I did prep a few clients for stage. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm not retired yet. And the attention to detail is very, what I want to give. I'm not in a position in my life right now to give exactly that to each athlete, but lifestyle, absolutely. So I'm learning how to use the gifts that God has given me through the sport and the life skills in general to help other people now, to help people get to where I am. um I'm a goofball. So
Yeah.
anybody that knows me personally, I'm pretty positive energy to be around, and
Sure.
around people that are like-minded. So, whether it's within the veterinary community or within the bodybuilding community, like I just want everybody to feel good, and
Mhm.
let's turn the frowns upside down realistically, but let's have fun with whatever the experiences are we're having, because that's how we learn, that's how we grow, and that's how we live life. We need to celebrate like a child every moment. And so that's me in a nutshell. Learning every day, learning about myself and the gifts that God has given me every single day, and learning how I share those with others. So that's me in a nutshell. Yeah.
There's so many
There's a
doors I
lot.
want to open with you. Uh,
Let's talk and see if anybody's
yeah,
on.
let's knock on the fact that you're a child of God. And we had a conversation in Utah. So when we were both speaking at the opening of the Origin gym out there, we spoke about the relationship we have with Christ and how that's evolved over the years for us both. I want to hear more from you, whatever you're willing to share on that, because we kind of, at least I had shared how I transformed from a new age type spirituality and really established my faith in Christ during a very difficult time in my life. So, is that something you're willing to share with us, like how that opening up in your faith has maybe transformed your journey or your view on things?
Yeah, I mean, I'll share what, hey, what's going to come out, it's going to come out. And, obviously things that are ultra personal, hey,
Yeah.
we'll use our discretion with that. But I've always, I love that word. We're talking about this first because this should come first, right?
Yeah.
I have historically I had kind of a back and forth relationship with God. Um, Due to the way I was raised, the schooling, the environment, life experiences. So I was kind of back and forth quite a bit. And a lot of it was just lack of patience, lack of actually studying the word, right? So the Bible is
Mm.
it's all in there, guys. It's a guide life to life, right? It really
Yeah.
is. You just got to read the thing. It's amazing. But I ended up having experiences back and forth and back and forth. And when I met my husband, I came back. He is also a child of God, and it's something that was very important to him when we met. I kind of strayed away. And so I didn't realize I was straying away. And that's the big that's what I feel like when I look back at, and I'll just kind of focus on the past 10 years, right? Because that's
Mm.
what we've got here. When I look at decisions that I've made in my life, in my career, in my veterinary career, in my bodybuilding career, I always thought everything I was doing once my relationship with God was like, all right, we're good, we're cool. I always thought I was just looking in that one direction, but then this all this new age stuff, right? The
Mm.
crystal
Mm.
and the tarot cards and all of this astrology, right? Like I'm a Libra. Now I'm finding out it really doesn't mean anything.
Yep.
I honor and respect nature, right? That's God's creation, but I was really like overdoing it in tune with the moon cycles. And it's, of course, the moon is going to affect the way that the planet and the way that we feel because it's just gravitational pull on water, right? So I got really, I went in a deep dive on that whole world, still praying to God every day and still, in my mind, doing the things that God wanted me to do, but something was always just a little bit off. And I'm like, what
Mm.
is it? Like, what is going on? And I realized, and I'll just say this without giving too much away right now. After winning the title is when I realized, oh man, I am serving two masters and you can't, like, it just doesn't work. Something's going to give. Something's going to give. And the new age deception and those practices. Now this is, we can dive deep here, but that's not the whole purpose of the podcast, but is
We could totally dive in for like hours, you and I, on everything.
100%. But again, these like new age philosophies, this law of attraction, all this, that, and the other, it's just clouding everything. Yes, you can get a lot of really positive things to happen in your life when you practice changing your habits based on some of those beliefs. So, that's there. You can't deny it. But like, who are you serving? Who are you serving, right? And is it okay in here? Are you right with God, right?
Mhm.
And it's an intuitive, you gotta, this is where the gift of discernment comes in, and you've got to just have this intuitive sense of, oh, this isn't right, right? And I always kind of like, oh, something not right, something not right. And then my world fell apart.
Mm.
Absolutely. And it's kind of fallen apart a few times in the past 10 years, but this was this was a big one. And again, I'm not going to get too crazy personal in depth with it, but I just realized, oh my gosh, my world around me is crumbling.
Mhm.
So things had to change. And it was kind of it was a very, a very physical experience that occurred with me.
Mm.
And bodybuilding's not to blame, guys, like everything's fine. Bodybuilding is what's kept me the healthiest I've been able to be in my entire life. Like literally my doctor's orders, bodybuild, do it. Like
Yeah.
keep going. It's keeping you moving. You're getting older. It's keeping muscle on your body. Like, yes, do this thing, do this thing. So I had something happen toward the end of last year that was pretty devastating. And then something else happened that was pretty devastating. And then something else happened that was pretty devastating. And it really, I mean, it was a moment, it was like a light switch where I realized God's like, hey, come home,
Mm.
come home. And it just all clicked. And instead of reading all of the new age things, and literally I'm sitting here doing tarot cards, and I'm like, what, of course this is going to tell me what I want to see. Of course it is. What do I need to see? And now
Mm.
I just get my Bible and I'm like, God, what do you want me to see today? And it open it up, and there's always something there. So that like, again, without getting into too many specifics about details of what happened, it was just something happened that was, a couple things happened, three things happened that were pretty life changing, all within a very short time span over the right after Olympia, like Open Olympia. And so it just, I changed. It was just an automatic and I understood. I'm like, wow, I thought I was serving God. I thought I was honoring God in everything that I did, and it's all fallen apart. So I've got to get it right, and I've got to rebuild this foundation and reconstruct life the way that God intended it for me to live. So that's my testament. And reading the words of Jesus, I mean, it's been life changing. It's been life changing, and I hope people listen to this message and don't fast forward it.
I
You know,
know I always think about that too. But I also have been where they are. If they did fast forward, I've been there. I'd hear the
okay.
word God or Jesus, and I'm like, skip, and get
It's
to the
fine. That's fine. It'll come to you when it's time to come to you. Everybody has their own awakening and their own realization when it's time. So it's okay if you skip over. It's okay. It'll come
it'll
back.
find you.
Someone, he'll find you.
Yep.
But that's my testament. That's my testament. I'd love to get into more detail, but again, very, very ultra personal.
Yeah.
Celeste, some of the all of the things
Mhm.
that have occurred, but not the time yet for me to share all of the things.
Absolutely. I'm just grateful you shared your testimony and you highlighted those experiences and how you were able to recognize what was happening. I know I've been in situations too where I'm like, wow, I'm idolizing things.
Oh my gosh. Mm.
Talk about it.
So already noticed I cut my hair. I cut my hair, and Kim, my coach, Kim Odo, he had asked me the same question. Why'd you cut your hair? Why'd you cut it? And I went back to dark. Part of it was just logistics. Like my hair, I've been bleaching my hair for the past 4 years. It got kind of fried. This is its natural texture. There is no product in here. I'm blessed with these crazy, beautiful
Yeah.
curls. Um, and it was just like after everything that had happened with those traumatic experiences early this year, late last year, I was just like, all right, I need to change. Like something needs to change. So I'm getting my hair done, and I'm like, all right, I'm for sure gonna go dark. Let's just give it a break. Let's just let it regrow. And because extensions, you can plop hair back in. It's just hair, guys.
Mhm.
It will regrow. But then all of a sudden at the end, when my stylist is all done, then I'm like, no, you know what? Can you cut it? Can you just cut it? And maybe it didn't all happen like that. She didn't try to really stop me.
Yeah.
And she knows me very personally. So she knew like, oh, this needs to happen. And it was just a light switch went off. I'm like, cut it, just cut it. And I knew I probably would have some emotions tied to it afterward. And I did, because it was rough to go
Yeah.
from long blonde luxurious locks to then like short curly Sue, like Shirley Temple. Like, I mean, and I didn't realize how much these curls, and for those on the podcast, if you're listening, you can't see this, but like I've got this little curl on the back of my head, like nape, and it's like not even below my ear.
Yeah.
When I extend it, it's long. Like my hair
Yeah.
is really long. So shrinkage is real for the curly girls, right? But
Yeah.
it was cut even shorter than this. Like this is growth. So I'm like, great, I love it. And it was a curly cut, and I'd never done that before. And I'm like, cool, it's dark.
Yeah.
It's the winter. It's dark, it's short, it's curly. I have never in my life embraced my hair in this manner. Like I might as well just buzzed it. And I thought about that too, but we didn't, we crisis averted there.
We
Um,
didn't have a Britney moment.
a Britney moment. I mean, my Lord, it could have been. Crisis averted. We didn't have a Britney moment. We didn't shave our head, but it was just a very drastic decision. And I didn't realize it in the moment when I was like, just cut it. It's fine. Just cut it. And she's like, you're sure? And I'm like, yeah, just cut it. It's cool. Like, I'm gonna plug hair back in. Like, don't worry about it. Just cut it. I need to just start over. And then when I went home, and it took me a few days to really, really,
Yeah.
really think about what happened. Why? Because I didn't love it. Like, it was
Yeah.
fun, but it was a big adjustment visually. Like, I
Mhm.
couldn't recognize myself. Um, and then I realized I know why I cut it. I was idolizing my hair. I was so attached
Mhm.
to the look. And like even right now, I have the photograph of me up where
Let's
my
see.
trophy case is, of when I won the Masters Olympia, and I've got the long blonde hair, and like my hands are up, right?
Mhm.
And that, I was idolizing it. It's like
Mhm.
I like it was a I was idolizing her, and I'm like,
Hmm.
wait a minute, who's Jess? Like, who am I? Because all my life I identified with being a vet or being a label, being something, and I
Mhm.
dislike labels intensely. So, like when I was a child, I was a little light-skinned Dominican girl. So that was the label, and I got made fun of in New York. I was the child that didn't know English, got made fun of for that. Then I became the doctor, right? So it's like, well, I'm the doctor, right? And then that has that has all changed. And then now it's like, oh, I'm Miss Olympia. I'm this champion. I look this way. I dreamt of looking this way when I was a kid, not because of any influence of any kind. I just could always envision like someday I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be blonde, I'm going to live in California, and then I'm going to be on a stage somewhere. And I didn't know what that meant or what it looked like, but I was idolizing it. So I was like, oh, no wonder you cut your hair. You were so very attached to it and what it meant for you and what it represented. You can start over. So that's what happened. That so the
Wow.
idolization. And Kim had asked me this question, and I was like, oh, I'm just enjoying what God gave me. But really, when I thought about it more and more, I'm like, it was an idol. My hair was an idol.
Wow. Talk
Mhm.
about mind blowing when you said too that you were idolizing her and you're talking about yourself. I actually think this is like a big issue in the industry is the idolization of like the best version on stage, whether that's yourself or it's somebody else. The comparison that comes of it, the self-esteem changes, the behavior changes, thinking you have to do things because you see so and so doing it. That happens consistently and it pulls us away from a lot of, I think, the unique shine that we can bring. And when I see you and meet with you, talk with you, and anywhere with you, everyone feels your radiance. There's no doubt about that, no matter how you look. To be honest, I don't think I've ever remembered what your hair looked like anywhere I've been, other than I've always appreciated being in your presence. You're such a light. And so to hear that to hear you're just freeing yourself from that idol, even without knowing it, you subconsciously knew you needed to release it. But what's interesting to me is you said you're free again, like you're free from it. So what does that mean now? Like what has that meant for you and how is that affecting what you do next?
Oh boy. So being free of it, just like being free of Dr. Jessica Wilson label, right?
Mhm.
I I have needed to figure out, that radiance that you see and everybody else seems to see. I don't see it. I don't always see it. I see it sometimes. Maybe I can feel it if I feel like other people around me when I'm present are radiant, right? Like maybe it's reflective or maybe it's them, right? Um,
Mhm.
like in my mind, it's like it can't just be me. Like we all have beautiful and unique properties and life and things to contribute to each other, right? Like we're always learning something from someone every single day. Doesn't matter who they are. I never, I had been so, I had identified so intensely with the labels. I'm a doctor, I'm a specialist. Oh, I'm Dominican. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. Oh, I'm an Olympian. Oh, okay. I'm now Miss Olympia. Oh, okay. But what did it mean? It didn't mean, I mean, it meant very important things, like really great accomplishments, don't get me wrong, and I will never, ever, ever take any of them for granted, ever. But who was like strip all that away? Who am I? And then it made me start to think, and this is something I did want to talk about. So we're going to steer it, and then we're just navigating here in
You
this conversation.
navigate it.
Um, I remember, and maybe we talked about it when during our first podcast, the why.
Hmm.
Right? So like why we do things, why we are driven to do certain things, right? And we like the Simon Sinek thing, think about your why, and then kind of go from there. Well, I remember my why for bodybuilding, it was like a patch. Like,
Hmm.
okay, I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian when I grew up. So I did that, but it burnt me out and it has done it again and it has done it again. It did it numerous times, the career burnt me out, which is very common in our profession. There's a veterinary shortage, unfortunately, now. That I had such significant health problems that I knew I needed to make a change. So during 2018, that podcast, I had just made a shift
Yep.
because I had been working corporate specialty medicine and it was just very frustrating. I love my day in and day out work. Like everything I did every day was great, but the environment wasn't right. So I stepped away in 2018, did end of life care. That was great, but I couldn't do it forever. And I knew that. But I got what I needed from it. I got skills and I was able to help a lot of animals and a lot of families at home, right? And then I did a different type of work in the veterinary field called industry work. So I was working expos and conferences and educating, hence why everybody could see Jess is always traveling for work. And it was great. Like I was on a flight twice a week, three times a week, going to all these really cool places and giving. Well, I gave so much that I'm still trying to figure out what pieces are still out there in the ether that I need to bring back. So I identify myself with what I do, or I had in the past identified myself with my accomplishments and what I was doing for a living and day to day. And then realize, oh my gosh, I started bodybuilding 10 years ago in 2014 because I needed something to do for myself to keep me healthy physically and mentally sane because my veterinary profession was like driving me nuts, right? So I realized, wait a minute, I started bodybuilding to put a band-aid on something.
Yep.
And I put a band-aid on vet med, right? And it did. Now, vet med and I, we have a relationship. It's on the shelf right now. So I'm currently, and some can imagine and some maybe not. So I'm, yeah, licenses are still up to date. I'm still a doctor. Like I can still do stuff, but it's on the shelf right now because I made a decision for my health that I had to do something different. I had to, because I was not in good shape. Remember what you guys see, what we post, what you see on stage, what you see on Instagram or any social media, it's just a fragment of that person's life. It's just a snapshot, literally. You have no idea what's going on in the background. I was covering up and I was masking that my life was kind of falling apart really well by bodybuilding. And the better I got at bodybuilding, the the more lost in the just got lost. And I don't like to refer myself in third person, but like I just realized, all right, cool, I'm becoming this top athlete. Oh my gosh, I'm becoming in this elite athlete. Oh my gosh, I've accomplished something that only like 1% of the world has accomplished, or I don't know what the stat is, but it seems like that. And then I win the title, and then I go home and nothing has changed. I'm
Mhm.
still the same. Nothing has changed. I mean, it feels really good to get the congratulations and to have that feeling of accomplishment, but like literally my data, nothing changed. Nothing changed. No sponsorships, no this, no that, like none of it. No money, like prize money, nothing changed. So I realized, man, after, especially after all of these traumatic events that you're aware of that happen, I'm like, oh man, what is going on? Like I'm idolizing this. I'm like, who am I? Like, what is going on? So the why, like I kind of lost the why a little bit
Yeah.
because I realized it wasn't the right why. Now I take the approach of I'm doing this because I want to do it because I love it.
Yep. And
That's
that's
the
enough.
that's it. Period. Period. That's it. There's no other reason. It's not a band-aid. I'm doing this because I absolutely love it. And I dreamt of doing something like this as a child, just like I dreamt of being a veterinarian. And the cool thing is that career, that's never going away. I can hop back in anytime. So I took care of that part of my life. Like, and this is something like Sandy Williamson will always say, never quit school for bodybuilding, never quit your job for bodybuilding. I went a different route, but I have the security of knowing, okay, I always have this career and that
Yep.
education to fall back on, and I can utilize it in many different ways. But right now, oh, let me really feel good. I've had the past decade to really work my way into this bodybuilding world and really understand it and get to know myself and get to know my body. It's been like the ultimate personal development
Yeah.
once I embraced the fact that I wasn't doing it to put a band-aid on something else. So the why changes, and that's okay. Like totally
Mhm.
okay. My why is I want to do it because I love it.
Yes.
It's my turn. And guess what? I love it so much. I want to share it. So I'm not gatekeeping. Like the way that I have learned, I'm happy to pass that along to my students. Happy to pass
Mhm.
that along here on the podcast. I've been through a lot of stuff, good,
Yeah.
bad, ugly. And now it's time. All right. I'm still doing this because I love it. And I'm not done yet. We're not done.
Not done.
No, we're not done. But God gave me this gift and gave me this sport for a reason.
Hmm.
So it's my duty to like share my gift. It's all of our duties, right? It's a responsibility. So now I have a different set of gifts that I'm sharing. I have other gifts. I put them on the shelf, but it really to kind of come back to the initial kind of detour on here, it's the why. Identifying yourself with what you do, you got to really think hard about that. Who are you outside of what you do?
Hmm.
And knowing that you can always change your reason why you're doing something. Always, 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 always. So yeah, that's
I
my good.
have, I felt some emotions while you were talking, and we'll go
Ooh,
back to those. But before that, this is a burning question in my mind, so I feel like I'm supposed to ask you, which is, how do you know you love it?
I love every part about it. I mean, it's not okay, so there are differences here, and this is for because maybe there are women or men out there that are listening that are not competitors. They just live the lifestyle, the stage is not the component. So as a competitor, you've got to think about the different components of what you're doing, whether it's a bucket list thing or whether you're a pro or whether you're trying to be, get into this world. You got to think about all it entails. So you move your body every day. We've got to do that, right? I enjoy doing that. I used to not. I used to actually like not like the cardio, not like the moving around. I didn't like getting sweaty. I was just like, oh, I got to do that. Okay, well, we've changed. We've adapted. We've gotten used to that. So I really enjoy learning what my body is capable of. So when you
Mm.
think about it that way, it kind of changes your idea about it.
Yeah.
So, oh, it's not, oh, I have to go to the gym. It's, damn, let me see what I can do today.
Hmm.
See what I can feel today. Let me see what kind of progress I can make today. So, like, I love that. I find that very rewarding. And not every day is that kind of day, right? Sometimes, oh God, we just got to get it done, right? So understanding that's part of it. It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
And the next component is the nutrition. So in um, in sorting out some health things that have popped up here and there, what I realize, oh my gosh, food is everything. I mean, I was a foodie before, but like now to appreciate what food, like the proper nourishment, not the junk, guys, like not the processed stuff. I mean like food that comes from the earth and that had a mother. I mean, that's what I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna put it
That's
like that.
such a pretty way of putting it.
If it
I
came from
love
the earth
that.
or if it had a mother, like you've got to think about what amazing things it can do for your body, right? And how it makes you feel. And then learning, ooh, this doesn't make me feel so good, right? And again, I'm talking about real food. The fun, what some would consider fun, right? The processed stuff, that has a time and a place. And I'm not gonna be here acting like I don't enjoy it, right? I enjoy my processed treats, but I'm very selective. And
Yeah.
learning that my health has improved because I've fed it the right fuel, that to me is amazing. So I love that part. All right.
Mhm.
Um, the benefits of, and I feel like I'm going to toot my own horn here, and I feel like not enough women do this, and you can relate, Celeste, because I know you're very similar here. With the exception of I had to have my septum done because I could not breathe and I had sleep apnea and it was not pretty. I haven't had anything done in my face. No fillers, no Botox, no nothing. And my skin is in really good shape.
It's
Obviously, genetics
beautiful.
play a part. Thank you. And you as well. Like it's
Thank
just we're
you.
natural, right? Yeah, I've got some makeup on right now. And okay, the girls are a post-manufacturer installation, right? But because I did have a breast augmentation. So that's the only
I've never heard that, but that is so great.
post-manufacturer install, right? But aside from that, I'm like, wow, I feel like I look pretty youthful
You look
and
very youthful.
I am proud of that. And again, part of it's genetics, but part of it is learning that nutrition and exercise can keep you young. And I'm living
Yeah.
proof. And a lot of us are living proof that are in the sport. Now, I'm not against having your fillers and your Botox. Do what you, girls, do what you want. But I'm proud of not doing that. And would I do it someday? I mean, never say never, because I never thought I'd get these put in, but installed. But it's just a matter of, hey, I've got this window, this opportunity right now where things are looking pretty good. Let's just roll with it. So
Mhm.
it's been very gratifying knowing that I have slowed. I probably, I mean, I don't know for sure, right? It'd be weird to kind of quantify that, but I'm stalling the aging, or I'm aging a little bit more gracefully because I have adopted these really cool habits. So that's the lifestyle part of it, right? And
Mhm.
then you have to think about the competitor part. So
Mhm.
do you enjoy the actual being on stage part? Do you enjoy performing? And I love it. Like I love
Yeah.
it so I
You're
was
so great up
I
there.
love it so much. Like, I wish for everyone in this world to find something, doesn't have to be bodybuilding, of course, something that they feel so good about that they just enjoy every part of it, right? And sometimes it takes us a long time to find that. I always thought it was veterinary medicine. The feeling of saving an animal's life when it's like at the brink of death, or, doing a really complex surgical procedure. Like I've done face-offs, like dogs that have had tumors and like we got to take parts of their faces off. I've done face reattachments, right? Like
Yeah.
trauma cases. That's a very rewarding thing. And but it takes a skill, and not everybody can do it. But the other, like taking care of your body, everybody could do that. Everyone can do it. You don't have to pay any money. You don't have to go to school for it. It's just common sense things that you can learn over time. So to the aspect of like, how did I know like this is like, how do I know like I'm doing this because I love it? I mean, I'm literally every aspect of it is just so much fun. The competition part of it, the friendships that I have made. Basically, these women are fam and men, because it's both men and women, like family, basically. Uh,
Yeah.
bonds that you share. It's like an unspoken bond. Like you can go anywhere in the world, and if you find another meathead, you guys have a bond.
You already know it too. You see them from across the room, you're like, they
Just
know what you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah,
You move differently. So
they do.
just yeah. So I mean, I just love everything about it, the camaraderie, the process, the stage, the glam, the little nuances of like learning how to do your own tan, learning how to do your makeup, trying different looks. Like it's
Mhm.
fucking fun. Like a lot of girls will find a signature look and stick with it, right? I'm not like that. I want to have fun with it. I've done blonde hair, brunette hair. I've done curly once. We'll see what happens. We might do it again. Short hair, long hair, all of it. Like, why not have fun? Yes, be competitive and be really good at the level you're in, but have fun with it. So I just think it's a blast. Like, who gets to do that for a living? Like, let me go be on stage. Let me go take care of my health, be really fit, show other people how to do it, and have fun with it, and then go be on stage. Like, this is real life. Yeah, it can be. It can be. So, yes, I love every aspect about it. And now I'm doing this because I love it, not because I need it to be a crutch or I need to get away from X thing, so I'm going to insert Y. It's not. It's not an escape anymore. It used to be. It used to
Yeah.
be.
I used to use bodybuilding as a like a crutch for the eating disorder. And now I realize like, wow, it is so much more than that. And hearing you talk about it with this passion, it's like it's making, I mean, I live it too every single day, but it's making me miss being on stage. Like I'm like 2 years removed. I'm just like chomping at the bit, but I'm like inspired and I'm excited hearing you talk. So I know that energy is being felt by listeners as well. It's like
Hope so.
sometimes I think people who aren't in it, like they don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to really describe it, but the way you put that was really, really beautiful because it kind of squashes the vanity aspect and it uplifts the health aspect. Whereas usually we see the health aspect get squashed and the vanity aspect is what's raised.
Gosh, that's wild. I hadn't thought of that. I never thought about it. But I mean, yeah, vanity. Oh boy, this is complex because I've
Yeah.
never thought about it from the perspective of vanity ever, ever.
Mhm.
But it's an aesthetic sport. We have to look. We have to have some vanity, like we're looking at ourselves all day, every day, like every second,
Exactly.
every mirror, every moment, like pose, you know? But
Hmm.
I never thought about it as a vain sport.
Because you do it.
I
That's
do.
the, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that, well, there are likely people, exceptions to the rule, but I definitely think there's a mentality behind it when you do it where, like you said, it's the food is nourishing and it's life-giving and it's vitality and it's health. And also there's focus and there's excitement and there's the glam and there's the playfulness of it. There's the performance, like all these factors generally don't get celebrated as much, or they get painted in a negative light because, quite honestly, it's been portrayed as such. And this goes back to something that you had said earlier, which was identities and how you were identifying with a doctor and the little Dominican girl who was bullied and so on and so forth. So, what I was thinking when you were talking about that, I'm like, so many of us identify with things. And the only reason they mean anything is because we've attributed meaning to them or the people around us have. And our body image or our view on ourselves is not just encompassing of how we view ourselves, it's also how we think others view us. So every identity we attach ourselves to is a combination of definitions and standards that we've either witnessed or we've seen outlined in a description or others have maybe expressed. And I think back to us at Cuties Conquering the Stage 2022, 23, right at the start of 2023.
Maybe a couple
2023.
people,
Yeah, it was.
one time.
Yeah, and that's when I was getting emotional earlier when I said that. So I'm circling back a little bit to that now because I don't have anything else to add to what you said about bodybuilding and knowing you love it because I it just was really beautiful to hear all that. And going to that 2023 moment we were in the hotel room, we were talking, man, I started almost crying when you were
Gosh.
speaking because we had full moments and oh, it makes me want to cry right now for some reason. I think it's just because that was so meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh. Not me saying I'm not gonna cry. And I, like, we both are keeping certain things personal, but we talked about some of the things that I experienced. And I also remember we were both on a similar breakthrough around pushing our thresholds, but acting like there wasn't one. And saying, well, how far can we push it? But then never actually having a stop button. It was like, well, I pushed it this far. I should just push it more.
Oh,
And then it's like you wake up, you're like, I've traveled every single month. I haven't been home. I'm saying yes to every single opportunity without any consideration for its impact on me and so on and so forth. So
yeah.
we were really on a you were like that 3 steps ahead and you were talking about that. And I was there literally experiencing that. And I was like, I needed to hear this. And I think looking at what you said before, which is you've put some of these things on the shelf,
Mhm.
that is a difficult thing to do when you've wrapped your identity into it because you start to think, do I have less meaning? Do I have less value? Do I have less worth? Because you've put so much meaning, value, and worth into those things. So now you've established meaning, value, worth, and other things. You've also given yourself permission to focus on the bodybuilding career and knowing that that's okay. And that's a great thing to do. And it's a dream come true for you. So, in that experience and in that journey, I mean, we can't deny the fact there has to be emotional ups and downs. So we've talked about the nutrition, we've talked about the training. You mentioned that it's a personal development experience. Emotionally, mentally, what has had to change or what has had to evolve with you to be able to cope in those moments where you're putting something on the shelf and you're putting your focus elsewhere?
I can't say that I have an exact answer it's really hard to find the right, like to articulate it because I'm still going through it.
Yeah.
I'm still going through it. Having dedicated your entire life, and again, this may apply to some out there, it may apply to a lot more of you than maybe you think. So be honest with yourself because this is something, it's a hard pill to swallow. Um, you're basically mourning part of
Mm-hmm.
that isn't going to come out to play as often. And play might not even be the right word. Like they just might not even come out anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so, like we all have different parts of ourselves,
Yep.
and that the veterinarian in me, if you imagine like dedicating, I mean, I started working in the vet field when I've been working since I was like 14. I never stopped.
Yeah.
In the veterinary field itself, I started at like, it was like 1998 or not. No, it was after that. I had started, it was like 1999. It was like 1999, my first vet job. Got into vet school in 2006 after many failed attempts to get in. So if you want something better, and if you just keep trying, because it took me
Um,
3 consecutive years of applying in a row to get into veterinary medical school, and I ultimately left to go abroad. I went to the Caribbean. It was great, great experience. So I went to the Caribbean, and then it was like, okay, what's next? Because I can practice right away. No, 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 no. You're going to keep going. Go do an internship because that makes you better. Okay, to who? Because the
mm,
patients care, you're skilled and you're qualified the second you graduate. You're fresh, you have all the info, everything's good.
so true.
Okay, go do an internship. I didn't have to. All right, cool. Now all of a sudden I got this hair up my butt that I wanted to be a specialist, and then dentistry was the thing I wanted to do. Cool. All right, what does that mean? Oh, I have to do a residency. Oh, they're really hard to get. There's like 3 in the whole country, 4 in the whole world. I got one. Oh boy. So again, I never take any of it for granted. I understand how
Yes,
fortunate I have been, but I've worked my butt off to get there.
that's
So
right.
then, okay, cool. That's more years, more debt, not a lot of money. Vets, look up the national salary for a veterinarian. It's not what you guys think.
What is
Um,
it?
well, because of the 2020 situation and the shortage, now things are much better, but
That just means they're working more.
they're working more, yes, but no,
Yeah.
wait, kind of got low 6 figures.
Yeah.
Low 6 figures, like 100 something thousand a year. If you're a specialist, 200 something maybe. If you're an ER doctor, that's where the money's at. But emergencies and me do not mesh well. I'm already so scatterbrained and all over the place that me in emergency situations, not my area. But um, the salaries are still the same. So like I'm looking at new grad salaries, and I'm like, I was a specialist and I made that.
Mhm.
They're getting paid that now. Something's very wrong with the system. But anyway, that's a whole other tangent. So imagine dedicating your life. I mean, I'm 42. I dedicated 2 decades of my life more, right? Because even as a teenager, you're thinking about it. You're whatever
Exactly.
your area of study is, whether it's medicine, law, engineering, whatever it is.
Hmm.
So imagine investing decades of your life practicing, trying different things. It's not like I just walked away from it. I tried different
Right.
areas. Like, let me work in a practice. Ooh, let me do house calls. Ooh, let me do industry. Let me see, where do I fit? Where do I feel right? I've always been the oddball. So when I had to make the decision, um, and I'll share this. I got really sick. It happened one other time back in 20, like 10 years before I started bodybuilding. I got really super sick. And bodybuilding was again like the thing I did for me. It happened again, and it happened a couple times. And I had to pull the plug. My physician pulled the plug. Is like, that sounds really dramatic, but my physician ordered me, like, you cannot do this anymore, because as you mentioned, Celeste, it's like, oh, you're traveling, when talking about the conference, it's like, oh yeah, and you're saying yes to this, and you're agreeing to that conference, and you're agreeing to this speaking engagement, and you're agreeing to do this meeting and that meeting and the other meeting, and now your phone's blowing up with all the teams and all the notifications, and someone else has control of your calendar, and they're not giving you help, they're not providing you with what you need to do the job well. What's going to happen? You're going to burn out, and your body's not going to handle that well. um, and your mind is going to suffer, and that's the scenario I was in. And I think I shielded it really well. I kind of masked it really well. And bodybuilding served at that time when my body's literally falling. Like when your doctor is saying, like, you need to quit this job because it's going to kill you, that's pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
You got to listen. And I didn't quit. I didn't stop right away. I held on for another couple months. to the
Mhm.
point where right before 2022 Olympia, that's why I looked so, I'm not going to use that word. I looked so tired in 2022 Olympia. I was surviving. I almost didn't even want to do the Olympia. I was on stage and I was like, oh, thank God, no first call out. I knew it was going to be first call out. That was like a last call out kind of figure. I was small. Like I just looked like I was barely holding on by a thread. And a lot of physician friends that I know now are like, yeah, we could look at you and we could tell you were off. And it wasn't, again, nothing crazy had been happening with bodybuilding. It was everything else in my life.
Right.
So when you're ordered to have to pull away, it's like ripping the band-aid. And that's what happened to me. I had to put this career that was killing me for a number of reasons. It's not the animals. The animals are great. It was the systems, the
Right.
environment. I had to put that on the shelf. And we're better now, but I'm still mourning that when I understood, oh, I have to change my life because I want to live in it. I want to live my life, so I've got to change it. So bodybuilding then served as, okay, it's a constant. At least I know I have this. I don't know what the heck else is going on in my life, but and that sounds dramatic again, but that's kind of how it felt. But I knew the structure that the sport gave me, whether I was going to be on stage or off, the things I talked about, the nutrition, the what testing what my body can do. I basically had to rehab myself because
Right.
I was in such bad shape. Um, Learning the skills by now, okay, now I'm really focusing in on what I'm doing here, going all in. And then that's when things started to change for me mentally. Again, I'm still going through this process of
Right.
mourning that last version of myself. Again, she's not dead. She's just
He's
she
just
just has to
somewhere.
be put on the shelf. She's got to rest. That brain power has to we just got to rest. We got to rest and explore what other things. Again, I don't like referring to myself as a third person, but what other things can Jessica Wilson do in her life?
Right.
Because already we got, I look at it in decade blocks, like 4 decades. All right, I got 4 decades I can't get back. I'm
Mm.
still a baby. What do I want to do for the next 4 decades? Live in the same kind of stress and just illness that I was in before? No. I have my 40s decade that just started. I've got my 50s, my 60s, 70s, 80s, 120, whatever, however old we're going to be when it's time for God to take us back. You know what I mean? So I see it very differently now.
Yeah.
And putting it on the shelf is what I had to do. But we're still working through it. I mean, it's a lot of emotional work, um, and learning how to be myself without attaching it to what I do has been a very interesting ride. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have to acknowledge environmental factors at play. Like as a society, we generally start conversations with, what do you do? What do you do for a living? That's like how we identify people. And it's normal to attribute our identity to that because it's also what we do with most of our time, you know? And when you're extremely passionate as well, you're thinking about it, you're focused on it, you're pursuing it. So it does take up a lot of space. And it sounds like that version or that part of you is like being a passenger princess, just like along for the ride. She'll drive maybe in the future, or at least she's like learning more about what the driver really needs, but she's not the driver, and that's okay
No,
because she's being taken care of.
yeah. She's not the driver. And in all honesty, the more I learn about my own person, like this is deep stuff, guys. Like
It
I'm letting
is.
that. But the more I'm learning about myself and revisiting things that had happened in the past and we'll just say it, childhood trauma, going back and really reliving life experiences, but now with a skill set, right?
Mhm.
It really helped me understand like, wow. So I'm not that like the doctor version of me because this is taught, right? As a medical
Right.
professional, you have to have rigidity and you have to be very
Mhm.
type A with many things and all the details. It can be a life or death thing,
Yeah.
right? If you miss out on details, like if you're not good with numbers and you miss a decimal point, you can kill a patient, right? If you
Mhm.
aren't detail oriented about the way you're doing your sutures or your stitches, that can just,
Yeah.
not go well. So, um, in realizing that I'm learning about who I am outside of what I do, I realize I'm like, no wonder, like, that's not my personality type. Like, I'm not a type A. Like, certain things, yes, there's a time and a place to be very diligent and very detail oriented type A for me. Like, my competition days, my show days, like the way that like, yeah, type A, type A, type A. But like in life generally, I have always wanted to be a more relaxed person and
Mm.
go with the flow. And I realized when I started bodybuilding, I was not that. I was very rigid. And I know this because my husband would always be like, what is going on? Like you're like you're being a New Yorker, like you're all high strung, and 'cause I'm from New York City, like
Mm-hmm.
you're too high strung. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I was very combative about it because I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it at all. So I
Mm.
realize now I'm like, that no wonder that's not my personality. That's why I don't do emergencies well. I like nice and
Mm.
planned things. And that's as rigid as and my anesthesia, all the things that had to do with patients and keeping them alive and going home the same day. Yes, I'm very type A with that. But like the rest of me is just very practical. And like the way I practice medicine was just very practical. Like let's do what works. Let's do
Mm.
what works with your budget. Let's just do what's going to be easy, right? That's going to benefit everybody. And that's how I kind of am in life. So it's just very interesting to learn to detach from the personality traits that that part of me has kind of like
Mhm.
stamped on me when I'm like, I'm the wild child. Like, look at my
Mm.
hair. Like,
Yeah.
my hair is reflective of my life. I'm all over the place. I go in any direction. I pivot. I change my mind. Whereas being a physician, you don't, you're not, that's not it. That's not the move. Right. So it's been an
Mm.
interesting learning process for sure.
That's making me think about my own personal life. And I, like my dad the other day, we were talking about how I'm a very emotional person. I'm like I go everywhere. He's like, I think part of that's because of the work you do. And everyone who knows me will say that, like you're one of the most emotional people, if not the most emotional person I've ever met. And I think some of it's attributed to the fact that I work so in depth with people's mental health. So I'm like, that my ability to experience this huge spectrum has granted me, I think, the gift and ability to meet people on a
Yes.
lot of this. But then I think about the bodybuilder side of me that's very like this does this way. And it's so different. It's very different, but they complement each other in some ways. But as you were, sharing that, I'm like, huh, yeah, I haven't thought about that to too much of a depth because I've always heavily identified with my work because like, build your brand and your business is your brand and you are your brand. But that's just, I mean, it's not, and that's something I've been coming to terms with. So when you say you're still working on it, I get that because there's a difference, I think, between passion and then like clinging to something because it's predictable.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's like I know I'm going to be this way in this role and I know I'm going to, and if I stay in this zone, then I'm always going to be, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily the best thing for us. Like you said, it's not always what you need. Even if it's what you want, it doesn't mean you need it.
Mhm. 100%. And sometimes it takes us many trial and error, just fall flat on your face, get back up, change one thing. Does it work? Nope. All right. Fall flat on your face again. Okay. Get back up. All right. Clearly, this job or this structure or this thing is not working. So we've got to learn to let go of that rigidity and pivot. Like that's what this has taught me a lot about too, is like
Mm.
learning how to pivot in life and realizing it's not a loss. It's
That's
like
right.
detour to a new adventure is
Oh, I
really
like that.
now what I want to see it as, right? Because if I look back 2 years ago, or even, gosh, in 2018 when we first did the original podcast, now I do want to go back and re-listen because I'm like, man, so like the things I'm saying are probably just so off or not off, but like just different than
It's
maybe
different.
what I would say now. But there's also how many years in between, right? We grow,
Exactly.
we learn, we use that life experience, we change perspective.
Mm.
So it's just about learning that when one thing falls apart, it's I guess the biggest lesson for me of like, okay, well, I'm not practicing right now, but it's not the end of the world. Like I
Mhm.
I'm now going in a different direction, and that's okay. That was the hardest part for me to really, really
Yeah.
cope with is like, it's okay. You can go in a different direction. You can start your life over. You can do something completely different. I could go work at a 7-Eleven right now. I'd pick a 7-Eleven in Japan, though, not here in the States yet. But
Yeah.
but like literally, we can do anything, 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 anything. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as you respect yourself and respect others while you do it, in my opinion, and don't hurt anybody. Do what you want. Do what you want. You can literally make a career out of almost anything these days, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very challenging to have someone who grew up in quotes or was trained in a very disciplined, very structured type of profession to then be let loose or like to make the decision to just let loose. And it's like, all I've ever known is rigidity and structure, and
Right.
it has to be this way. And you have to take tests, or and you might fail, or you might kill something. Or and then now I realize I'm like, oh my gosh, life is just not that serious. We've got to
Mm.
have fun with this.
Yeah.
Not that serious. It's not that serious.
Oh, that's so true. We forget to have fun. It's because it's like having too much fun feels a little bit like a threat to security.
Yeah, it threats security and it feels irresponsible. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think every individual out there needs to find out, whether it's within the sport or outside. It's like look at it on an off stage season, right?
Mhm.
Like you got to have some accountability and some responsibility, but it's that time to have fun,
Yeah.
like go in a different direction, explore, have fun. I feel like that's how we should treat life in general. Like
Mhm.
like a little less pressure, a little more fun. And again, I'm working on this every day. Every single day, I'm having to start over and remind myself, okay, you get to start over today. Tomorrow, get to start over tomorrow. So like it's one of these life lessons that I've learned where it's just not that serious. Like guys, I was almost on a ventilator a couple years ago when I got the vid, and that helped me realize, oh, okay, like go do the things you want to do. Go do the things you want to do. But
Mhm.
then the most recent kind of experiences that I've had, guys, go do what you want to do. Like do what you want to do. Be responsible. Don't hurt anybody. Make sure you can fund yourself. So like
Mhm.
finances, all these things have to be aligned, but it's like life is meant to be lived. And the more we stick to the rigidity of the way we were trained in schooling or even our thought processes with bodybuilding and the structure, there are many different ways to get someone ready for stage, many different ways. If one system isn't working for you, for example, how I could correlate this to bodybuilding, if one prep coach isn't working for you, like their style is just not, it's not meshing, go to another one, interview another one, find out what's out there and explore because it should be a process that fits what you need and what you want to accomplish in your life and your lifestyle. So I guess as closely as I can correlate it to bodybuilding, right?
That's
Prep.
great.
Many different ways to prep. You got to find the right way that works for you. Same with life. Many different ways to live life. Many different ways to live life. Find the way that allows you to live life with the most joy and the most satisfaction that you can find. And the money will come. It's like that a lot, I think a lot of
Yeah.
our generation and our society focuses so much about money.
Mhm.
It's gonna come. Just do what makes you happy and trust me, it'll all come together.
Mm.
That's my little TED talk there.
That's a great TED Talk. I liked it. And I think that it was so fitting too, because you used the word pivot. It's so funny because growing up, my dad used to say, always be ready to pivot. This is one of his like dadisms, you know. I don't get it because and this is why I think he still, even to this day, drills it. is because I've always been very like, this is what I'm gonna do, and it's gonna look exactly like this, and that's how it has to be. And exactly, God's like, good luck. We are not doing that. It's gonna be completely different than you expected. And then you do have to be ready to pivot. It's so interesting too. Sometimes you accomplish things in your life. You could probably relate to this. I know you can. You accomplish things in your life and you think, this is what I wanted. And then you get it and you're like, oh, I think that I wanted this for different reasons. And now I'm in a position where I have to steward this because it is a gift and I don't want to deny that it's a gift. I have to steward it, but maybe what I really truly wanted was something different. And I thought I was supposed to want this. I don't know if you've experienced that personally.
100%. Are you kidding me? Yes, I have experienced that in many different ways. And I will, this one's going to be a tough one. And I don't recall if I've ever talked about this publicly yet. I don't recall if I've really ever talked to my coach about it yet. But the night I won the Masters Olympia, it was a very interesting experience. Of course, the elation. Like for
Mm.
those of you that saw, if you saw the live stream, although here in the US, it was probably like the middle of the night.
Yes.
It was 1 a.m. here in California. Who did see the live stream could see the emotion. And if you saw, like I posted the speech on my Instagram,
Mhm.
because I felt like it, I mean, it was kind of long, but it just, I had to get it all out there. And I meant every single word of it. I couldn't remember right now off the top of my head what I said, but I knew I meant every single word of, and it was all important, and it all came out the way God intended it to come out. So
That's it.
exactly. But once like the interviews were done and like there was a gala in the evening, which was so awesome, and Romania is beautiful. Highly recommend anybody to
Mm.
visit, even just to go on vacation. Um, it was a really interesting experience to get to the hotel. And I stayed by myself to get to my room and sit there and stare out into because my view was the arena. So I actually got to look at the place every day
Wow.
and night while I was there. And then like I went blank. I
Mm.
just like there was just no like all the emotion was gone. Maybe it was just the
Mhm.
serotonin and the dopamine, everything had left my body at that point. But I just remember sitting there like, oh wow, I did it. Huh, now what? And it was like there was just nothing there. And all I remember, and I don't know, this may have come from, I read like all the Tim Grover books. This
Mhm.
may have come from reading that, but I just remember thinking, oh, well, that's done. Cool. All right. Well, I'm at the bottom again. I got to dig my way up. Cool. And then it was just like autopilot went on, and I just, the emotion was gone. The joy, everything was just gone. And all I saw was, and this is like that negative bias a lot of us have of like just thinking about the negative. And then I was just like, damn, now I have to defend this thing. And I still have to do well at the Olympia, at the regular Olympia. What is this all going to mean? Okay, well, next. Like that's literally through my
Mhm.
is, huh, all right, next. After accomplishing that, like
Huge.
it doesn't make like it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But if you're in the position, you get it. Where it's like, okay, I did this thing, worked so hard, sacrificed so much, enjoyed
Mm.
every second of it. But then, but now what? And it's not that I didn't feel emotion or there was a void about earning the prize. It was just, okay, what's next? So
Right.
I'm not sure, even to this day, I'm not sure if it was just, oh, void of emotion, or if I just went robotic, because that's all what I've done all my life.
Mm.
Like graduate high school, cool, go to college. Okay, next. Okay, go to vet school. Next. Okay, go do your internship. Next, residency. Next, go open the practice. Like so part of it, again, it could be just me as like my brain has always been programmed to just go on to the next thing, next, like that structure. Where now it's like I have this title, I can literally do anything I want. Like I can work this thing to get me up to that level of like getting all the sponsorships and all that. Didn't do it. I didn't do it
Mm.
because all I kept thinking about was next. So I kind of cheated myself out of the moment. And like it's neither here nor there. I can't go back and change it, but I'm acknowledging that's what happened. I was so focused on the next that I didn't relish the then
Mm.
behind closed doors. So this is like ultra uber personal. I'm sharing this with the world, but I think it's important. I think it's valuable when you're not in the moment, like, and you're thinking about later. It's like, what's in the scripture? What do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself.
And there's
Boom.
enough worries for today.
Enough worries for today. So I didn't even sit there and worry. I let that day just go, and I didn't even think about it because I was so focused on the next. So it's important. I feel it's important for me to share this because I want people to really think about that. Like when you're in the moment, be in the moment, be there, just be there, be present because you won't get it back. Like you
Mm.
won't. You won't. Like, okay, I've had my first pro win. I've had a couple thankfully. I've had my first Olympia. There was nothing like that. That was like a whoa kind of moment. But then I did it again and it was kind of meh. And then I did it last year. I probably shouldn't have because my body was tired. But like who's gonna not go to the Olympia, right? Like you qualify, like you're not gonna not go.
Yeah.
um, but the Masters, like that was just like, oh man, I was so focused on what was next that you know, I didn't relish it as much as I could have. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Part of it, the idol thing. It's all
Yeah.
coming together now, but at the
Yeah.
time, I didn't realize that was the case. So I
I
don't
was
know.
really hoping you would share that.
You were hoping.
Yeah, I was hoping. So I was like cryptic, like I don't know if you've experienced that.
I
Maybe,
I
but
was picking up what you were putting down.
so
No,
glad.
I am glad too. And I'm not gonna lie, like I'm sweaty right now, like talking about it because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, should I talk about it? But how could I not talk about it? I'm a human being, and this is a real
Mm.
life experience that I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. Whether you're an amateur, a pro, an Olympian, an Arnold, I mean, it doesn't matter. If you are in a competitive sport and I had never been in a competitive sport before
Mhm.
bodybuilding. So these are new experiences for me, whereas maybe someone who's been, a football player or a baseball player or a performer in any way, right? Whether it's theater, any of it.
Mhm.
Like just I'm learning these lessons,
Yeah.
but the most important thing is like learning to just stay present in the moment, whether it's good or bad. Like it doesn't matter. Like just be there. Don't worry about later or what could have happened. Just be there. So I think it's important. So I'm glad you
It
asked.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have more I want to say about that, but I want to ask first, like you said you're sweating right now.
You feel it.
Is there fear behind sharing that? What is behind that?
I don't think it was fear. I mean, it could have been. I don't know. It could have been. So things that I think, vulnerability,
Yeah.
admitting, like to admit that I literally went to my hotel room and I just sat there and I was like, well, what's next? Like
Yeah.
it's comfortable. It's like part of it also is there a little guilt there too? Like
Mm.
if you just won Miss Olympia title and you're sitting there thinking about what's next, like hold on. Like, do you realize you won the Olympia title? Are you ungrateful? No, I'm absolutely very grateful. Like,
Yeah.
so I think part of that is the vulnerability, is really, yeah, with maybe a little bit of fear. Yeah, you called it. Fine, fine, fine. It's a
No, I
physical.
just yeah, that's why it's so courageous that you did. And I hear you say you don't feel like you made the most of it, essentially, like to gone out for more sponsorships or opportunities. And part of me wonders if that was part of the purpose is to put someone in that position to represent that title and take a direction and a route that was a little bit different so you could share this story and share this perspective that so many athletes sweep under the rug and pretend don't happen. It's generally the confetti and the sparklers and the I'm so happy and everything's great. But there's so many athletes who go home and it's the same or it's not good or
Yeah,
it hits them like wow, okay, now the target on my back is bigger. and there feels like pressure. And so we see the confetti, but you still got to clean it up after. And I think you were like, you went to your hotel room and you're like, I got to clean up this confetti.
Literally. Yeah. Literally. That's all I thought. It was like, okay, time to clean up, time to restructure, on to what's next. Like that's it. And you're right. There are so many athletes that keeping in mind, I'm here celebrating in quotes, right? Like, but
Right.
again, my time, it's my personal space. Of course I celebrated. I went to the gala. It was a blast. Like I
Yeah.
had a lot of fun. Guys, don't think I was not having a blast out there. Like
Yeah.
it was great. It was so fun.
Of
But
course.
again, it's the behind closed doors, right? Like
Mhm.
behind closed doors, it's the, oh, wow, okay. Oh, yeah, I got to clean up now. Now got to start over. Got it.
Yeah.
Because I know I have to go back home and real life is still there. And it's not this, beautiful five-star hotel where food is being served to me. And it's like, I mean, my husband, he cooks and it's great and he serves me food. But it's not the same. Like here I'm flying and
Yeah.
experiencing all of this worldly culture and this beautiful food, and then I come home and
Mhm.
everything is the same and nothing has changed. And I know with athletes and typically I've seen this with athletes, where this is very common, where it's like you have this super high and then you just come crashing down when
Mhm.
you come back to reality. And I lived that. I lived that, and I didn't know. And I had thankfully really dear friends that took care of me to help, and my husband to pick up the pieces. Because, guys, when I got back home to like real life, the confetti's gone, like, so it's done. And now the pressure's on because the other Olympia is like right around the corner. So it's like there's no break. You just pedal to the metal, you just keep going. And oh yeah, you have to keep life around you together. And my environment, again, what and by environment I don't mean like my home life, like my marriage. No, that's all great. I mean me, like my brain and
Yeah.
the way I think about things and the way I organize myself, the way that I create my environment around me. Like I had been so hyper focused on just getting to the goal of getting to the Masters Olympia that I hadn't really thought of organizing myself to a point where when I got back I could just ride that train again. No, it
Mhm.
was like I came back home and life was just it was a circus the way that a lot of people's lives are.
Yeah.
But you're right, there are a lot of competitors that go to their hotel rooms after a show, and we know like only one can win, right? Only one
Right.
winner, and then the rest of everyone else goes to their room and they have choice to make. They're either going to sit there and sulk and wah and whine and complain about why they didn't get the placement they wanted, or they can enjoy the experience and go out or stay in and enjoy the experience and put the show on the shelf,
Yeah.
right? Whether they won or they lost, and go enjoy the location they're in, go enjoy the evening, go enjoy time with friends, with family, like just go enjoy life, because the
Right.
stage is 2 seconds of this whole situation. And then when you get back to reality, then you decide then. Like that's something I learned from myself. I'm not going to think about what's next. I'm going to stay right where I am, wherever it is that I'm going when
Mhm.
I start competing this year again, and I'm going to enjoy it. And then when I get home, I'm going to take a day and then I'm going to restructure things. So I used it as a learning experience for sure, because I haven't
Yeah.
competed since Olympia.
Yep.
And I, I've learned a lot over the past several months on what I'm going to do differently.
And that was a change for you too, to not
Oh,
jump
yeah.
back on stage the moment you saw it, basically, or were told, hey, we want you on this stage.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. So and you mean like change in this season because I'm
Yeah,
not.
like your past seasons, it was like you had very long seasons, lots of shows. So with this season looking different already, is that part of you applying that?
Um, Kind of indirectly, kind of involuntarily. My With the things that I had gone through, um, I have to go a little slower. I have to go at a little bit of a slower pace. We're ramping things up now, but typically I would always start my seasons as early as possible, like March, April at the latest, usually was like when I would start my season. To, in the past 4 years, I've qualified 3 times to the Open
Exactly.
Olympia, always in hopes of getting that qualification as early as possible in order to shut it down, get ready for the actual Olympia. Well, it's what July? I'm still not on
Mhm.
stage.
Yeah. So that's something else that would be interesting. Like, don't Olympia title holders usually get to
Hmm.
step on any Olympiast? I mean, I don't know how it works for the Masters Olympia, but that would be a good insight.
I'm glad you bring that up. A lot of people, and this is something I still have to verify, and I have a feeling I know what the answer is, but a lot of folks have assumed that, oh, you're qualified for life, because
Yeah.
usually anyone that has an Olympia title is technically qualified for life as long as they're in good standing with the IFBB. Well, Masters Olympia is like this whole other separate entity, I
Okay.
believe. So I'm not sure that I mean, Masters Olympia was a qualifier for the Open Olympia. Let's put it that way. Like, I don't know that it's treated the same way. I have not read any, and it's every other year on top of that. So I have not read anywhere on any website about what that looks like. Like, oh, do all the Masters Olympia title holders, are they qualified? I doubt it. I would imagine that when I apply to go back in 2025, I'm in.
Yeah, I would hope so. Defend it, champ.
Would imagine that I'm in, but I mean, I would just have to reach out to the IFBB and clarify that. But no, I mean, I still have to qualify. I'm not on that list. So
Yeah.
that's how I'm kind of seeing it. Like, none of it, like Aria, my teammate, he got the men's physique
Mhm.
title. He's not on, like, we're not on the list. So I'm not on the list.
Oh,
So I
that's right.
yeah, so I still have work to do. Um, and yeah, this year is different. I mean, like I said, I would have already been on stage many times.
Hmm.
Like this time last year, I had already qualified at DC Pro. So
Nice.
I was already like going into Masters Olympia qualified, which was a relief. But yeah, this is different. This is different. I've never, ever, ever started my season this late, ever. So it's July. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go through a little bit of the last few years because it has been so long. So I'm going to look at my notes over here, but in 2020, you had experienced some like lower placings than we had seen from you before. And then in 2021, it was like things ramped up. You came out
Yeah.
with a top 11 in the Mr. Olympia. That was your first
That's my
Olympia.
so
And
the big stage, so close.
I
Almost
know. I that
one.
it was so close.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you had more success in 2022. Now, granted, when you had qualified for the Olympia, you had placed top 5 in some really big pro shows.
Yeah. I got
Um, what it was
uh,
New York Pro, Chicago,
yes, 2021
Pittsburgh.
was, ooh, yeah, I had played, oh my gosh, let me think of that
That was
season.
a huge season for you.
I started out with Wasatch, I got seventh, I believe, wait,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah,
seventh.
it was what? Yeah.
And then I did Pittsburgh right
Mhm.
after, because Sam's backstage, like, hey, you're coming to Pittsburgh. I'm like, oh, Kim, we're doing it. Okay. First time going to Pittsburgh, I think I got fourth.
You got fourth. I'm pretty sure I remember that.
I got fourth, and that was huge because it was one of those like, do I belong here? Do I belong here? Do I belong here? Okay, I guess I do. All
Yeah.
right. So I
Yeah.
got fourth there, and then did New York. And of course, like while at Pittsburgh, big Steve Weinberger's like, so you're coming to do New York? And I'm like,
Uh,
yeah, what is it? He's like,
can't
yep,
say
sure.
no.
So did New York, which was in Tampa that year, and I think I got fifth for that one, I think. And then it was back to California, I believe. Did a couple shows. Oh, that's when it was me and Ashley.
Yeah, that's right. Was
First
that
time.
Pacific? What
Oh,
show was that?
that was San Diego Night of Champions or something.
Okay. I knew it
And
was a muscle contest show.
and I got second, and it was me and Ashley, and I'm like, oh my God,
Wow.
this is real life. And
Epic.
yeah, I love her.
I love
But
her.
I deserve to be second. Like, I am pretty good at looking at myself in a very objective, like I look at myself the way that like I'm pretty good at just being a judge. Like
Yeah.
look at the bodies like you're a judge. Don't be biased, right? Like don't pick your favorite because a person at look at the bodies. I did not deserve first place. I know that now.
Hmm.
But then after that, it was like, oh, you're going to Omaha. I'm like, we're going to Omaha. I'm gonna have some steak while I'm out there. And then I won. And
Mhm.
it was like,
Yep.
whoa. That was not a sit in my hotel room and think about what's next. That was a, oh my gosh, this really
Mhm.
happened. So that was a really sweet year. Um, but going back to 2020, right? Because 2018, like, yeah, we're still just kind of cruising middle of the pack. Then 2019, oh, we're starting to get up there, like a little. I think I had gotten fourth at the Wasatch, which at that time was Salt City Showdown. So I had started like just showing
Yeah.
up. People were
Yeah.
noticing, and the long blonde hair showed up. Like that's when that showed up. So I started getting noticed, and then 2020 happened, so everything shut down. Now that year, I had no business competing. However, I needed something to do. I had been furloughed. I like we weren't work like it was just life was what it was. So I'm like, well, Kim, what do you think? Like, just throw me in. I just need something to focus on. I need something to because I didn't have a job. Like it was a wild time. So yeah, we didn't do so well, but it was fun. It
That's
was
what matters the most.
it was such a fun year. It was such, I mean, I did, what did I do? I did the Clash. I did, I think a couple muscle contests. I just did whatever.
You did a lot of
Did a
different
lot.
shows.
I did a
I
lot
think
of
probably whatever was doing a show. So there
Sacramento.
weren't many options.
Yeah, there weren't many options. So wherever there was a show, I was doing it because I'm like, I need something to do because it's driving me like this whole situation in life is driving everybody
Yeah.
crazy. So yeah, the placings weren't that good with the gym situation. I hadn't found my home gym just yet.
Yeah.
Um, and then 21, the things that changed are my environment, my home gym. I decided to stop going to UFC gym and instead, which is like big corporate, everybody knows it.
Yeah.
Um, Not that I wasn't getting what I needed there, but I needed something different. So I found my small little private gym here owned by my friend Dale.
Mm.
Um, Malaka's training. And then I started getting body work done. He and I were just talking about this today. That made a big difference.
Huge.
Big. So being in that gym environment and then and having access to it, because that was an issue. A lot of folks didn't have access to gyms.
Yeah.
But learning, wait a minute, what are the pieces of the puzzle? I'm a professional athlete. Hold on. I gotta like look at all this in the nutrition, the
Mhm.
way I train. How do I recover? Oh my gosh, I wasn't getting massages anymore. I wasn't doing any of these things. So he started learning to do body work, and I was like, I'm your guinea pig. I trust you. Get all up in there and fix it.
That's awesome.
And he helped me like that front pose, like he helped me get that into alignment.
Yeah.
So that's what started really making a difference. And I was getting better with my structure and getting like I was just more committed to the sport. I was just more committed. I was still working full time, 2021 and 2022, most of 2022,
Mhm.
maybe 23 as well. No, 22. And I just was more serious. I was just more consistent with my habits in bodybuilding.
Mhm.
And that includes the body work. We've got to take care of the vessel. We have to take care of recovery because you can do all the work you want in the gym, but if you're all tight and like contorted, like I saw that so many women at the show this weekend on the live stream,
Mhm.
in Bikini Universe.
Mhm.
So many women would come on and I'm like, oh, she needs body work. She needs body work. Oh my gosh, these girls need body work. Like they need to get body work.
Yeah.
So that made a big difference, a big impact. And then again, building on habits.
What did you
Um,
notice really quick when you were watching that made you go, they need body work?
oh, they can't hit their front poses to save their lives. Like they have the potential, like the potential's there, the musculature is there, but they can't open their torsos up properly, or
Mhm.
they do and they're shrinking their torsos. Like they're just not in alignment. You know, one shoulder's way up, the other one's down. The just little details that I
Mhm.
because of my medically trained brain, I look at gait, I look at locomotion, and I look at muscle. I look at the body the way I would look at an animal to
Yeah.
evaluate it, right? And it's just so clear. It's just so clear that they just need
Mm.
some hands on.
Yeah,
Very clear to me. Yeah. So it's part of being an athlete. You
it
can't
is.
your body or your physique if it can't move and hit the poses and the positions that are required. You just can't do it. So that's what made a big difference for me to be able to hit those.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was 21. And then 22, it's kind of a blur, but I feel like I started early as well. I don't remember.
Chicago Pro. You
I didn't start with Chicago, did
No,
I?
but you requalified at the Chicago Pro. But you
Yeah.
had a few, I think you had a few shows before that. I don't remember.
Yeah. I think the Wasatch was probably one of them. And then man, 22 is a blur. All I remember is Chicago and then Olympia. I don't remember.
I'm
I
gonna
did
look it up.
shows. I'm sure there was a muscle contest show, of course, because that's my backyard. But yeah, Chicago Pro, that was really special. That
Oh,
was
that was.
because the year prior, Laura Lee had won it, and she had made this big scene because she came back with big old glutes,
Yep.
right? And then I'm like,
I
man,
remember that.
yeah, that was good. That
That
was
show was so fun to watch.
it was fun. Yes. And it's such a fun show. So it was a very special, it was very special. And that's where I got to know my teammate Vanya. And I think she had
Oh,
joined
great.
Kim. So it was like her first show under Kim. And we were
Yeah.
both up call out. And I remember we were standing next to each other and I squealed.
Oh, that's awesome.
One of my good friends, and for years I've been like, come on, come over to Kim's, just come over. You know you want to. Look, just come on, come on, come on, he fix it. And man, look at her now,
Now she's the,
Miss International UK. Like,
yep, correct. Everyone was like,
mhm.
because we've been waiting for her, not to redirect too much, but I think a lot of us have been waiting for her breakout to
Yes,
find. She was so close, and then it happened, and we're all like so happy. She'd
yes.
be a good one for me to have back on.
She would be an excellent one because she's also a teacher that retired that and is now doing what I'm like. We've all kind of transitioned
Yeah, serving the industry more.
serving the industry more. But yeah, she'd be a great one. But yeah, Chicago's very, very, very special for me because of the relationships I was able to build. Like she and I had
Yeah.
so much fun. I think we even roomed or we just were like in each, she was in my room the whole, like it was just great. And then I won it.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And that was so cool to
That
have
I remember for some reason when I think about you, that's the show that like stands out to me the most.
that. I think part of it could be too, Will Whitman took the photos.
Oh yeah, that's probably it because those photos are memorable. There's one of you like at I think a lower angle looking
Mhm.
up, and that for some reason is always like in my mind when I think of you.
It's wild, but looking at those photos and then looking at what's on NPC News Online, like NPC News Online was more of a reflection of what we all actually looked like. Because man, we
Yeah,
all look really hard in the Whitman photos. It's like,
yeah.
whoa. but but that was such a memorable show. That was a
That
wonderful
was so
show.
cool.
And yeah, that's kind of when then we shut it down after that and then hit Olympia, but it was a kind of not great because a number of reasons. And then yeah, and now this year, well, last year we did a lot of shows too. And then this year we're not going to do as many. We're not, it was something that was pointed out to me by the by some of the head judges of like, hey, how many shows a year are you doing on average? And I'm like,
Mm,
all of them. No, like 7, 8, something like that. So by the time I hit Olympia, my body's just
I'm
like,
tired.
girl, like you need a burger or 5. So it's
Yeah,
strategy is different this year. Strategy is a little bit
that's
different.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a big deal to change up your strategy when your previous strategies have technically worked,
Yeah.
right? They've gotten you where you want to go. So to take a new approach can be a little bit of a shock to athletes, but the fact that you're willing to do it, I think, is like really the champion mentality.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I have nothing to lose.
Right.
Nothing to lose. I mean, I've got my title. I've got that for another year. And I mean, I've got 10 years of experience. Like
That's right.
I have nothing to lose. It's like I gotta try. I gotta try a different approach and let's see
Exactly.
what happens. But yeah, it's a man, it's been a fun 10 years. I can't wait for the next.
I know. You know what? I realized when I pulled up NBC News, I realized we both did the Pacific USA's in 2020.
Oh my gosh, yes, we did. Yes, we did when we
And
had to.
for some reason, I forgot that because that show was like everyone was separated a lot and there was not a lot. I remember that now. Wow, that was so weird. I don't even remember us being able to watch the pros
No.
other than through the door. I think that through the door, I remember Sarah Gaden was there and we were like watching it was like so much going on. But yeah, wow.
What a weird time. Yeah, that was
Very
interesting.
weird.
It's like, here, wear your masks, but then and then you can put them around your uh
Wrist.
wrist, or you can take it to put your mask in this little plastic
In this
container.
box we all share.
Yeah, the box we all share, and then do your routine, and then you can grab it. It's like none of this
Oh my
makes
God.
sense, but they had to follow rules. It is what it
I
is.
think I remember the only people in the crowd was Kim Odo, Adam Bonilla.
Yeah,
That was like all I remember. And they were sitting with,
I
and there was, yeah, and then the people who were sitting with them and, cheering with them, that was like very heartwarming and nice.
yeah.
And just hilarious. Like it was such an that experience was very like it made me think of um why is it escaping me? But like old school bodybuilding where you're just like in an auditorium.
Nobody knows what's going on in there, and the lighting was even different. Remember, it was like
Yeah, it was.
dimmer light, like it just wasn't the normal production.
Yeah.
But you're right, it felt like the olden days with like, oh, you only have the magazines and you know when the date is and you show up, like that's it, nobody knows anything, you just show.
Yeah.
That was what an experience
It was
that
so
we had to
cool.
go through.
Honestly, and Muscle Contest did such a good job of making the shows happen. Like that was so awesome. So I'm grateful for that. And yeah, going back to what you said too, just about the journey and you taking a different strategy or approach. Um, Something that I think is always important to consider too is when we're on this journey as competitors, part of I think the evolution of personal growth and development is the willingness to take different approaches. And you mentioned something earlier, which is there's so many ways to get there. And if your current way isn't working, then it's okay to change it. So I think we can also acknowledge that there's some ways that really just shouldn't be taken, right? I learned the hard way. That there were certain things that I was doing that weren't helpful for me, but I think so much of it is rooted in intention. It's that why, it's the reason you're doing it. So now that you're taking this different strategy, this different approach, what is your intention? Like, what are you hoping to experience or accomplish through this?
I'm hoping to build, rather, let me rephrase that, display. My goal is to display a physique that looks healthy,
Mm.
that looks strong, and that fulfills what the judges have been asking me to fulfill for them for years, which is to be just a bit more robust. Like, I remember Attila telling me, like, because one thing is to get the pump, right? And like show day, if everything all comes together and I pump the right way and then that girl's off, then, oh, I have a chance. I want to walk on stage where it's like, oh, okay,
Mm.
there she is. And that's always my goal. But I mean, like, for real this time, where I'm not like hoping that someone else is off or like I have to pose a
Mm.
certain way to hide something or display some, you know what I'm like, I don't want to have to
Yeah.
take little, because we all know being on stage and the way that you present yourself is a lot of smoke and mirrors, right? Like
Mhm.
we could pose our way to a win, right?
Yeah.
I just want to walk on that stage with the body constructed the way it is,
Mm.
hit my pose, and it just be undeniable. And I want it to be healthy. Like
Mhm.
what Attila's been asking me for, like she just wants a little more, like just more robustness to me because I am very petite. I'm very little.
Yeah.
I'm like 5'1" barely. Like 5'1" and something. And I'm my last stage weight was 100 pounds below. We were below that actually for Olympia. We were probably like 99, 98. After water manipulation, just the way that we do things. Um, I want to be heavier and we're
Yeah.
got it.
I love that.
The time off. So that's that. I want to show people that you can step away because again, I'm kind of out of sight, out of mind, right? Especially with social media, right? Like if you
Mm.
don't see the person, it's like they forget about them. But I want to also make an impression. This is the other really important thing for me. I'm a representative,
Mm-hmm.
certain group of women. I feel like I represent all women. However, there is a certain age demographic in our sport. And I want to walk on that stage and I want to show them that they can do this. And I want to show them, like, I think, okay, if I talk to myself 10 years ago when I started this, I want to be that athlete that my former self looks and is like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
we look, okay, I could do that. Like I
Same
can do
here.
that, right? I want to be also the athlete that women that are 10 years ahead of me, so like they're in the 50s and their 60s, that look at me and are like, wait, I can do that. I can do that. So that's what I want. That's like the this season I want to show one, be improved, obviously, like I want to be better than I was before, but I want to show the health of it all. You know what I mean? Like in the way that I look, in the way that I move. I can't, again, I can't articulate it because a performance on stage is a performance on stage. So
Yeah.
I practice all the time, but like usually I wing my performances. Like I'm not
Mm.
backstage, like, yeah, I'll do some stretches and I'll hit the poses, but I'm not like repeating the posing and the routine and all of that. No, it's all here. And then I hit the heels, hit the stage, and I don't think about anything else in this world. Like it's the most therapeutic, cathartic moment. To be on stage for me is like bliss.
Yeah.
So I just wing it. When I'm out there, I just let my body drive because she knows. She knows
Mhm.
what looks right and what doesn't. So practice your posing to the point where you don't have to think about it, ladies. But
Yeah.
that's really my goal, to present a more robust, healthy looking physique and to show women that are in the Masters division that this is attainable. Because I
Yeah.
didn't do anything crazy. Like I just took time off. I took time off and rerouted and or rather restructured my environment. That's really like there's nothing crazy. Like it's very simple. And the time off is this one thing I hadn't really done in a decade. I'd never taken this much time off, ever.
Yeah, this is your longest gap.
Longest gap. So I want to show women that they can do this, that they can take a break and they can come back and look fresh and feel good and
Mm-hmm.
well. So that those are my two goals: be more robust, be bigger, and show, I am that representative. So this is technically the first time outside of Olympia last year in Orlando that I'm stepping back on stage,
Yeah,
representing Masters, but in the open division, because that's where we're going.
that's right. Yeah, I can't wait to see it, honestly. I think it's awesome that you're embracing that and you're wanting to deliver on that. And I don't know about you, but time off, like something about it, I walk a little different. Like I feel more solid.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're building tissue, but like um you can feel solid. I don't know if you know, like you walk and you
I
feel
know what
that.
you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Like the wind isn't just gonna like you're not so
Yes.
like you don't feel so frail, right? Like
Yeah,
isn't gonna blow you away. That almost happened to me when I was little. Oh my God, the wind almost blew me away.
I could see that.
Yeah. To hold on to a
I
pole.
could see it even now. Like, I like that. Like, bye. Bye, Jess.
Gosh. But no, it's that frailty that a lot
Yeah.
of us look that way. Like a lot
Hmm.
of us will look that way. And it's like, no, I don't want to show, I don't want to be that. And I don't want to feel that way. And taking the time off, like, ooh. And by time off, guys, I mean I took structured, well, hold on, let me rephrase. I took some involuntary time off,
Hmm.
where and I'm going to say it in this way: please never ever 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 take what your body can do for granted. Never. Please, like, you love your bodies and appreciate what they can do for you, not just the what. Notice I had never said anything about the way it looks. Not once in this whole conversation have I said, I do this because I want to look a certain way. No, that's the stupidest thing.
Yeah.
No, you want to feel really good and you want your body to work for you for the rest of your life. Because the stage, like I said, it's a nanosecond of your life
Mhm.
when you consider this lifestyle. But yeah, you'll look really good. That'll happen, but that's not the goal for me personally, at least. That was never the goal. I wanted to be stronger. And then I realized I'm an athlete, so I want to be the best. It was never about looks ever for me. So that's like that time off, that involuntary time off I didn't think I needed, was forced upon me, and I didn't have the ability to train for several months.
Hmm.
That was, as you can imagine, guys, very depressing.
Yeah.
Nature's antidepressant is exercise, and now you cannot do it. Like you
Mhm.
cannot. So I had involuntary time off, which actually served me, and then a structured season. So think about that when you're thinking about what your competition looks like, or your season looks like. Sometimes you're going to have structured time away from the stage. It doesn't mean you're actually off. Now, when I'm talking about that involuntary time off, it's literally I could not move. Like I couldn't do anything physical for at least 2 months or so. So that like just never, it was probably some of the darkest times of my life.
Course. Oh my gosh.
Guys, never, ever, 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 please never take it for granted. Your bodies can do amazing, amazing things. And our health is like the one precious thing we've got. And through this sport, I've been able to conserve and preserve and
Mhm.
maintain and enhance my health. And you guys can all do it too. Like people out there can do it. They just have to find the right approach, right? And it doesn't have to be you got to go on stage. You
Right.
don't have to do that, but just got to find the right approach to care for your vessel because it's the one we got. And I don't know about you, but I want to live for a really long time. Looking good is not the priority. Like it's feeling good and being able to move. That's the priority.
Absolutely. There's been times where I've looked amazing and I've felt horrible. Horrible. I don't even know what my last name is, like even from a mental standpoint. So I think then when I established approaches where I looked really good and I felt really good, even with some of the sacrifice that kind of leads up to that looking really good part, it was worth it because it wasn't drawn out like it had been in the past. And so we go through it and we learn along the way, and we have to be open to learning, and we have to also recognize that yes, we're competitors, but that doesn't mean we always need to look like we look on stage. It doesn't mean we always need to train like we're training in prep, eat like we're eating in prep. Sometimes there's going to be those forced rests. Sometimes there's going to be a trip. And those are all part of life too. And it doesn't make you any more or less of a competitor. And I think the attrib I don't know what I'm trying to say, but overly fixating on like this, you know exactly what I'm trying to say, but I don't know what the word is.
Words are hard, guys.
Yeah, that word. Fill in the blank. This is a fun little game for the podcast. We meant to do this. You have to send us the word that belongs.
Right. Put it in the comments or wherever
Yeah, yeah, the YouTube comment
review. Put it in the podcast review.
in the review. I was listening to that episode update with Jess, and here's the word that belonged there. By the way, great episode.
But I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yes. Yes. So we put a lot of weight, I think, into what is done. And that is problematic. Like, here's something that I see often where we're like, oh,
Emphasis, emphasis.
yeah, two exclamation points.
Okay.
But this is like when you send a text to your friend and you like hit the you hold down the arrow and like all the bubbles. And so you just really emphasize it.
What?
Yeah, you hold the arrow down and then you can choose like for it to blow up the screen, basically.
I'm 42, technology and
I'm gonna text you
I
later doing that and I'll like show you.
don't know how to do these fancy things. Goodness. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so what I was gonna say is there's a overemphasis on what's being done. People will look at this competitor took this approach and that's why they're successful. But they don't often see that there was intention, there was execution, there were other things behind it. And we do this to ourselves too. We say, I was successful because I had the long blonde hair, or I was successful because I wore this suit. You were successful because you chose to be in something that allowed you to feel more confident. We can't put so much weight in the exact thing. Because it's not always about the thing, it's more about what's behind it. Just like, okay, you can't try to repeat what you did 10 years ago just because it worked. You have to go, well, what was happening at that time? What went into those decisions? Just like when you look at the person over here, it's like, try not to, we're not trying to compare, like, what's their meal plan like? What's their macro plan like? Instead, it's, okay, what are the maybe characteristics? What are the clues being left by this success versus like trying to emulate the exact path? You know what I mean?
And the important thing to note on, so I love that, because you're absolutely like too much emphasis on the end result, right? Without realizing,
Yes.
wait a minute, but did you don't know, like you're just seeing the end result. Like you don't
Right.
know you've tried one, two, three, four, five, like 10 different ways of doing it. And this is the way that worked.
Yep.
How could you ever expect that to work for you? You're two different individuals.
Right.
So I agree with you. We've got to be very cautious about interpreting what we see as the end result as the end all and be all. And it's interesting you mentioned it for this because I used to apply that a lot to my veterinary career. And in the beginning, when I was kind of shy about announcing like, oh, I'm a vet and I do this too, right? Like I was a little shy about it. And now I'm like, this is me. But a lot of questions like this would come in. Oh my gosh, I'm in med school or I'm in law school or I'm in vet school and I see you're competing too and I want to get started. I'm a first year. And like, so this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna finish your schooling
Yeah,
first. You're gonna learn good habits and
exactly.
you're gonna finish that first because what people saw in me was, oh, she's a doctor and she's a pro bodybuilder. Yeah, but one came before the other. I got
Mm,
one done before the other. If I think back now, like there's no way I didn't know. It would not have been good for anyone if I would have tried to do both at the same time because the amount of dedication that you have to give to becoming a professional and whatever it is, and you've got to be all in, just like becoming a professional athlete, you got to be all in. So before I used to say a lot about balance is not real. Like you do one thing and then you do the other thing. You dedicate half the time to one thing and then you don't do them both at the same time. You can't. They'll suffer. I've tried it. I've done it. It doesn't work. You temporarily you'll get little wins, but trust me, big picture, something's gonna give. So you've got to
mm.
just decide and remember it's okay to change your mind and change the way you live your life and change your careers. But finish your careers first, especially if you're investing a lot of money into school. Then get competitive with bodybuilding. But in the meantime, build the habits, learn about nutrition, learn what works for your body, find the right coaching that will get you the foundation,
Mm.
and then when you have graduated and you have financial stability and more time, then you can look at the sport. And everybody's different. There may be some anomalies out there that can do it all. That's good for you. But the majority of us, really, it's one thing and the other. Like Dr. Wilson, that's a finished product. You didn't see the years of blood, sweat, and tears and being up cows' butts and like
Mhm.
roughing it out in the wilderness in the Caribbean and middle of the country where I finished vet school. Like you guys didn't see that. You didn't see the sleepless nights. You don't know what my debt load is, by the way. Um, to achieve that, like you don't know all the behind this. All you see is Dr. Wilson.
Right.
Remember that's the same for an athlete. Like you
Mm.
see Miss Olympia here. Oh, Miss Masters Olympia. You don't know I've tried different ways. Maybe you didn't know that I've been doing this for 10 years. Maybe you
Mm.
didn't know that I tried all sorts of you don't know. You just see that
Right.
finished. Very mindful and really learn to ask questions and ensure that you're not applying what you see the winner. It's the same with like girls that want to emulate poses that don't fit their body types because they saw the winner do it, or a suit color that the champion's winning is maybe it's not going to work for you. Stick to what works. So be very, very, very cautious about emulating those that you see at the top. It's kind of almost like idolizing, right? Where
Yeah, it
like
is.
her, I want to look just like her. I'm going to mimic the same look. Um, do it your way.
Mm.
Like like my suit, my purple suit, my iris suit that Toxic made, like I've seen so many girls and it makes me so happy. But I'm like, but wear it your way. Like you're a brunette, don't
Mm.
go blonde. Be brunette and try it. And if it works, it's gonna work. And it does, right?
Yeah,
Like, don't change your whole situation to look like me because you're not me. Don't
that's right.
change your situation to look like Jen Dory because you're not Jen Dory or a Laura or an Ashley, right? So I want to get that message out there. Use discernment, learn to ask questions because the finished product is not all there is to it. I promise you that in anything in life at all.
Absolutely. That's so true.
Passionate about that one.
Wait, what'd you just say?
Passionate about that one because I've been that girl that's like, I want to look like her. And then it's like, what? No.
I know. And then when you meet these people in person too, you're like,
Wait a
wait a
minute.
minute, I'm trying to get
Instagram.
jacked and they're actually quite petite. I didn't realize that. Or the
Exactly.
opposite's true too sometimes. You're like, oh, wow, they are,
Mhm.
yeah, more muscular than I thought. So it's amazing when you realize you're comparing to something you can never ever be. It's such an unfair thing. I actually think it's a form of self-sabotage, just like seeking perfection, seeking balance, seeking to look like somebody. It's a form of self-sabotage because it's not possible. So you're keeping yourself stuck in like a route of, I'm going to try to get this thing that we know we can never get.
It's like if you're a golden retriever, you're never going to be a poodle. Even if you cross the goldens and the poodles and make doodles, like they're never going to be one or the other. They're their
That's right.
own thing. Their own thing. They're their own kind of mutt. Just they will never be one or the other. Just like that's the only way my brain can like
Yeah.
translate it because it's something I'm familiar with. It's like be you guys, because just be you. No one else is going to be me. No one's going to be you, Celeste. As far as like our aesthetic, our appearance, yes, we have similarities, but like be you. Like I can't try and go make pretend I'm going to look like Maureen. No,
Right.
I have to be because we're the same size. She's a little shorter than me, actually. And
Uh-huh.
it's like, no way. Like, I have to be the best, like what the judges have been asking me, be more robust, just be a little fuller on your frame. Don't try to look like XYZ. So that's just, I'm getting really passionate about this because a lot of young competitors tend to be very impressionable
Yeah.
and they don't understand the divisions just yet. And I'll speak for bikini, they'll just see the winner, right? And then they want to look like the winner. And then they'll train to look like the winner, but their structure is not exactly the same. So, like when the judges are saying, for your structure, this is what we're looking for, please just listen to them because they're talking about your physique. They're not comparing like me and Ashley, two different, totally different
So
structures.
different.
Never has a judge told me you need to bring your glutes up more like Ashley's. No, I've gotten completely different type of feedback because it's based on my structure, not hers. So they never do this whole comparison thing, like look like this person. Never, ever, ever. So competitors out there, you've got to be the best version of you, no one else, because that's what they're looking at. So it's I get passionate about it because I still feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding about what the judges are looking for. And perhaps it's my seasoned eye and your seasoned eye where we completely get it. They are very fair. Um, but still, I think there's a lot of misconception out there about what they're looking for. They're looking at your physique and they want it to be the best it can possibly be on your body.
Yes,
That's
absolutely. And
that's
it's so dependent too. This is the hard pill to swallow. It is dependent on who else is there that day and
correct.
who's standing out in the good ways, who's standing out in maybe a less than positive way. What's the most representative of bikini? And we've seen and heard, like I've talked to judges personally, as you have, where it's like that was the best representation of bikini that we could do that day.
Mhm. And it
Yeah.
happens. And
And
that's
doesn't mean that that's what they want everyone to look like at every national show or every pro show, but that was the best that they had that day.
and they have to pick a winner. They have to pick someone.
Yeah.
So that's where you see a lot of variance in the physiques.
Yeah.
And geographically as well. Like we
Hmm.
all the time, the European girls, they look different. They just look different. And then they don't do very well when they come to the US. Most of them don't because the look over there is just different, but they still have to pick a winner. They tend to be a little more muscular, vascular even, like things that we don't really want to see in bikini
Right.
from the standard that's been established here. So I'm glad we are kind of flying over this a little bit
Me
because
too.
it's important to really understand that, like, hey, there's gonna be a winner, meaning there's gonna be one winner and the rest the rest didn't make the cut, but really study the sport, study
Mhm.
it. Like, and this is crazy. This might be a little crazy, and this is something I've done. Like my first Olympia, you know what I did? Well, I'm going to tell you what I did. I
Yeah.
I made a PowerPoint on every athlete that had been qualified, every single one. Even and myself, I was in there too. And then I was like, all right, let me look at the commonalities in the physique. That really helped me understand. All of our structures were different. There were a couple of us that were kind of similar, but like like do something like that. Like go and look at the top Olympians last year. Take all their photos. They're on NPC News online. Pull them. Look at the front, look at the back, and just do side by sides on all of them. And then you'll really be able to see the structures because these are all top athletes. They've won a show at some point because that's what got them there to the Olympia, right? Look at the top athletes, look at the middle of the pack athletes, and then look at the ones that didn't make the cut, that came in last. Look at all of them. And then you'll see the variance of the physiques and you'll see the what like what we're talking about. Like, no, it's structure. It's your structure. You don't want to look like anybody else. You can't. It's
Right.
impossible. If I looked like Maureen, I would look big and under conditioned. Like if I
Mm,
put on the amount of muscle that she put on her frame, I wouldn't look right. It just would not look right. If I tried to look like Ashley, I would look emaciated. Like it would just not
mm,
be the right look. I'd probably look artificial almost.
yeah,
Like that elongated muscle with the V.
totally.
Like it's just I look the way I look. You look the way you look.
Mm,
So I think competitors, it's really important to just go look at the top girls. Look at the top girls to just get the theme, get the idea.
yeah,
And don't be hard on yourselves when you're at a show and you don't win. Get the feedback and then go back, speak with your coach. If it's the right coach, you restructure your plan. If it's not the right coach, you interview others. Like you gotta do, you're paying people to do this. So you gotta make sure it fits and that it works for you.
absolutely.
On tangents here of
I
like women
love the tangents.
conversation.
I love them. And I'm gonna go back to something you said earlier when you were talking about sometimes you got to choose between this or that. Now, I'm in an interesting position. I have never competed without being in school at the same time. So this upcoming year will actually be my first time competing and not being in school because I started competing in 2015 and that I was in college and that continued like I just didn't stop. I got the bachelor's, then I got the master's, and then I was doing the internship. And my last prep was insane as a result of this. Like, I think I can definitely see like how having not prepped at the same time as doing that could have been beneficial for me. I just have never known competing without being in school too. So I'm really excited about this new experience for me to see what does that actually feel like.
Yeah, that the first thing that I thought of was, oh, what are you going to do differently? Like, what's different? What's different? I'm
Sleep
intrigued.
will be different. I'll
Sleep,
sleep.
huge. But think about now that you have, because now you more time, right? You have
Yeah,
some time where you can restructure your world, where you can sleep more. Imagine what this physique is going to look like. But you had to do that, what you did
exactly.
before, learn that, well, I don't know if that would work, right? You made it work, but did you excel?
Right.
So it's just that's how people need to think about that. Like,
Yeah,
do it to get started, and I'm glad you started.
me too.
Made a huge impact on this community
Thank
because
you.
you started. But now envision what you're going to be able to achieve moving forward. That your life, your environment, everything is different. Everything is different. So
Yeah,
I'm excited for you. When do you think
thank.
you're hitting stage?
Huh?
Do you think you're hitting stage?
It'll be probably early 2025. Yeah. We want to get nationally qualified early, and then hopefully Tyler had announced that there was going to be another natural pro qualifier early in the year. So I want to hit that.
You have a plan. So see,
Yeah.
it can be done. It can be done.
Yeah, well, originally we were going to compete at the end of this year, but we were looking like my physique hit a stride and I've been putting on a lot of good size and like I've been maintaining a good structure and weight, you could say, while increasing my food. And my coach and I are like, this is not the time to prep. Like, we have so much more room to grow. Why would we do that right now? Plus, I think just life has changed so much for me that I'm actually really glad to be in my improvement season still. And I don't think it would have been a good time for me to prep. So I think we're going to start prep like maybe October, November, and then be ready. I feel like it's gonna be something so different, Jess. Like I feel like I've built something really great. I mean, I look really good right now that I can't wait to see. Thank you.
Watching. Do you think that, ooh, the roles are reversed. So I guess what would your words of wisdom be to the competitor that was in your shoes or is in your shoes where they're going to school, doing like what I did, where it's like, oh, the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and then let me compete. You know, kind of similar to what you were doing, right? Except mine was work and yours was school. But what would you tell yourself 10 years ago when you were starting to compete and trying to do it all? What would you share with yourself? Or
Honestly, it's so difficult because looking back, I'm like, well, I'm glad I did it the way I did because here I am, like you said, I'm doing what I'm doing. However, if I could go back and tell my younger self, don't compete right now. Grow, focus on building, focus on just, yeah, growing. Because at the time I had started my business, the same year I started my business, I started competing. I had graduated high school early. Everything, I've always done everything all at once to do it, you know? And now I'm like, I look back and I'm like, I probably could have advanced as a competitor in a more productive or efficient way had I taken time off. Like I wish I would have taken like those first from 2015 to 2018, maybe even 2019. If I was just like pushing and growing and following like the macros, and I think I would have been in an advanced physique and position versus like dieting down and staying dieted and prepping and prepping and prepping. Like that's what my wisdom would be. Like it's okay to not, do it once, you'll like it, maybe you won't, come back to it, but focus on the growth more than anything.
I love that advice. I love that advice. And that's advice that I think I would share with anyone at any age. So, I mean, that's like 5 years ago, right? Because that, no, more than that, 7 years ago. Oh my gosh, 7 years ago, 8 years, 6 years ago, however, math. Anyway. Oh, guys, you missed like we were trying to figure out how old we were. Think about that then. That could be the same advice you'd offer yourself 10 years from now if you would start 10 years
Mm,
from now. I know that's advice I would offer anyone today.
yeah.
Take the time off, grow. Advice I never took.
Yeah.
Take time off, grow. Take time off, grow. Nope, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I just wanted to compete all the time. Until I took some time off. And then now I took even more time off. So it's take time off, life, keep living life.
You see the impact of time off too, and then you go, why didn't I do this sooner?
Why? It's
That's
okay.
how I feel.
Some of us learn lessons the hard way. I'm one of those people. I learn lessons the hard way. Like I have to mess up consistently for me to get it. Hopefully now I have, both of us have learned and have gained enough wisdom where we won't mess ourselves up like that. But yeah, take the break, guys. Take the breaks. Like I need the breaks. Trust me. Not just physically, but just mentally. Your family needs the break. Your friends need the break. Your coworkers need the break, depending on what you do. But your body needs the break. Everything needs the break. We all need a break. And you can still be a really high achieving athlete while taking breaks.
Right. We'll
Yeah.
sit down in like another
Yeah.
however many years and we'll be like, oh, remember when we talked?
That one time
I've recorded another 300 episodes since then, and here's what I've learned.
in the early 2000s. Oh goodness. Oh, in the 20s. Oh, oh my gosh. No, but I hope we don't go that long with, this
Yeah,
is a long time, Celeste. Like
it
we're not
is.
going this long.
We've had
Um,
our own mini unrecorded mini-sodes that have been just for us.
very, very true.
But you jogged my memory. I was like, there's something I was gonna ask her. I'm gonna go way back to a reference and earlier in the conversation. You said your husband had pointed out that you were very high-strung New Yorker. Okay. So I need to go into your husband's role in this because he's only known you as a competitor. And I think sometimes in relationship, that person holds up a mirror and we don't always want to see what's in it. How else, aside from your high-strung New Yorker right now, how else has he played a role in this? Or maybe what is his perspective? I mean, maybe you can't speak completely for him, but what have you noticed from him that's allowed you to also put certain things on the shelf or take a different approach?
Um, so what I can say, or I can say anything, but what I'm really proud to say is that that man has always been honest, and he will call me out. Is this rated R? Because I'm a
Yeah, it's always going to be marked explicit.
very, very explicit. He will call me out on my bullshit. Like if I'm that's one thing. Christopher James Wilson, I love you so much. And I love him. He works with, he's an athlete and in the MMA world, Muay Thai, and he works with athletes with all levels, professionals, even children. So he's started doing that before he met me. So when he met me, I wasn't an athlete yet. I was just like, I work out and I want to do a show, right?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't like serious yet. And
Mhm.
he has always, and he's always freaking right. And I never want to admit it. But
Uh,
I know, but it's fine. It's fine. Well, it's aired now. But yes, he knows and I know that he's usually very much right. But for the longest time, he um he kept telling me, you need a break. Like you need at least a year off. Like Jess, you need a year off. You probably should be at around this weight. And that's gonna be the money. Like that's gonna be like Jess, like you just need a year off. Like you need time off. Never listened.
yeah, you've literally competed every year, so you've
Never.
done the opposite of
So I've
us.
never taken a full year off, but I have taken longer periods of time off than he ever anticipated, and I made progress. This year, he's very excited because it's been a
Yes.
substantial amount of time off for me, and the changes are there. So he's usually right. So he's always yes, he will hold up that mirror. One very important thing my husband did for me. And I hope everybody has someone like this in their corner if they don't have the wherewithal to realize this themselves. In 2020, when the world got weird and everything was just weird, and I'm like, I'm going to compete just to compete, like, because I need something to do. Um, he called me out. There was one day, and it's very vivid, and I have no problem sharing this. It's very personal and it's very vulnerable. But I was having an episode. I was having like a meltdown. I was like, I don't have this and I don't have that. And I don't, how am I going to make it if I don't have this, that, and then blah, 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 blah. All this nonsense. I was just spewing out victim, 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 victim.
Mm.
And he called me out on that shit. I remember I was sobbing because I think I had done the clash and I got back and I bombed it. And I was like, I had one job this year. I had one job was to be competitive and do well at a show. And I was like, I don't know, whatever placing, it doesn't matter. I got back home. I remember being on the ground. I was sobbing. And I rarely am like, yes, I am a very emotional person, but like this was like, come on, like, what are you doing? I'm crying, sobbing on the ground because I feel like such a failure.
Mhm.
And I remember I was on the ground and he's like, Jess, get up. And the exact verbiage escapes me, but the message was, Get the F up off the ground. You have every single thing that you need to be successful. Now you get your head out of your ass and you go do what you need to get done in order to be successful. Huh, surprise, surprise. 2021, I started winning. 22,
Yeah.
23. Like, so he has been in my corner, as frustrated as he gets sometimes because, oh, you're still on prep. Like, I want to go have a date. We'll still have date nights. We just do it differently, right? Like,
Yeah.
food is the center of the world. To him, it is. To me, it's like, it's fine. Like, I can bring my own food. Let's go somewhere. Um, so he gets frustrated, and most spouses will, right? Or when certain, body fat levels are low, things are not working.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just having candid talk here. But
It's
so
great.
he's very patient, but there are frustrations there. But the man will never, ever, ever, ever let me get away with being a victim. So if he sees any behavior, and it's been 4 years and I've been solid, like it's like that moment was very eye-opening for me. Like, how ridiculous is this? I'm on the ground sobbing. I'm a grown-ass adult. I do really have everything I need to be successful in the sport, but for some reason, I've been playing this comparison game between myself and whoever's winning at the time,
Mhm.
claiming that, well, I don't have what she has. Yeah, I do. I have everything. I have everything I need, and everything is at my finger. Everything is accessible. Everything. So he changed my life from that perspective. I don't know if he realizes how impactful, because it wasn't just about the sport. It was about the mindset completely. And so I have to thank him for, and then shocker, I started winning. But he will call me out on my nonsense. He will like get to bed. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you still up? Get to bed. Like he's that support. And then he loves me no matter what happens. Um, but he does get very emotional when I don't win.
Aw.
Like, I'm like, are you mad at me? Like, why are you so upset? Like, I got second place. Like, why are you mad at me? Like, oh, you're not mad at me. You're just mad. Okay, cool.
Yeah. He's
But
invested.
he's very invested. And so when I do well, it's great. When I don't do well, he's not upset with me. Not at all. I don't want anybody to misinterpret that. That's just me misinterpreting when it first started happening, when I started doing well. No, he just gets really passionate about the whole
Yeah.
situation. So that, and then the other little things that I never take for granted, like if I'm so exhausted and maybe I didn't pick up my meal prep, he'll go grab it for me. He'll take care of things around the house that normally are my responsibility. So it's truly a partnership. If I'm having a day where like, oh man, like this workout's gonna suck because maybe it's really close to show day, he has no problem helping me. I mean, he'll complain about it a little bit, but it's
Yeah.
it's it's he has been integral to helping me keep the structure and keep it positive in my mind. And then like above all, not falling into that victim mentality, which a lot of us, it's very easy to do. It's very easy to do because we play the compare, we're human. And if we don't have that fortitude built in us where it's like you're not looking at anybody else, you have blinders on and you're focusing on you, because whatever the other competitor's doing, it doesn't matter, right? Like it really doesn't matter. It's none of your business. So he has helped me mind my business. And this is
Mm.
something a few like I've shared with some of my friends when I'm like, I want you to win. So you go and you mind your business.
Love
Go
that.
backstage, mind your business. That's what you do. Get on stage, do the job, get off stage, get your award. Like that's what I share from that experience, but he has been like integral in helping me get here. And he's supportive all the way. He wants me to go as far as I want to go.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so special and awesome. And I think you have to be humble enough to also accept that feedback. Do you ever find yourself get defensive?
Oh, I used to all the time. All the time. All the time. I used to get really defensive, um, and just make excuses. Like all the time. And it's like the stuff that like only behind closed doors, like the
Yeah.
public would never know. No, I would get really defensive and kind of combative. Um, when I knew really deep down inside, he's telling the truth. Like I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. I'm self-sabotaging because I've done a lot of that. throughout my career. And he just has a really good, sharp eye on that. Um, so that I appreciate him immensely for that, because it's until you learn, oh, it's taken me 10 years to learn what I know now. And it didn't really click until about 4 years ago. Not everybody's going to have someone like my husband, right? Or a partner of that personality to like call you on your shit. And
Mm.
sometimes that's what we need. And we have our coaches there, and my coach Kim, he'll call me out.
Yeah.
He'll call me out real quick. Because he knows my body. He knows me. He knows my behaviors. He knows when something's off. So he will very gently call me out on my nonsense. My husband's like, mm-mm, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
I love that.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I'm very
So how
thankful.
did you overcome the defensiveness?
I just had to face the reality.
Yeah.
I had to face the reality of, oh, he's right. Or rather, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
He's not wrong. Because maybe he wasn't exactly right on every detail, but like, oh, I see a theme here. Once I really owned it, everything changed. Now I rarely give him a reason. Not that I'm using him to hold me accountable.
Right.
I used to, like, honey, make sure I go, make sure I do this, make sure I do that. Now it's like I'm pretty much on autopilot
Yeah.
with the occasional, depending on the time of the month, with the occasional flips. But he's also really good at knowing when that time of the month is. Him and
Yeah.
our partners rather, but yeah, he's
Mhm.
usually always right. But yeah, it was just having that, like, you gotta face the mirror.
Mhm.
Got to face the mirror. And it took me some time, but then I really understood. I'm like, oh yeah, I've got to change these habits. I've got to change this behavior. No one's gonna save me but me. He can't get me to win. I'm the only one that can get myself to that position. He can't do it. He literally can't. No one can. My coach can. I have to put the work in. So it's a really brutal, it's brutal, but it's when you are very honest with yourself on that, it's like, then you can sleep at night.
And I think there's a lot of inner work that's required for that too, because if you've had maybe unhealthy or toxic environments or relationships in the past, and you equate that type of talk or speak to not truth, hurtfulness instead, I've found that it can then be difficult when something is true
Mhm.
to hear it and go, no, that is not them being a mean person and trying to hurt me. That's actually a person who's being honest and truthful, but it sounds
Harsh.
like this. And
Yeah.
so that being able to internally reflect and go, just because it maybe looks like it doesn't mean it's the same thing. And you have to grow, I think, a lot of personal trust. And like you said, not everyone will have a partner or an experience or a friend or a person in their life who is that. And I think some of that really stems from past experiences, past relationships, past family engagements, whatever it might be, where you learn early on that defensiveness was safer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all my life. Oh yeah. See, these are rabbit holes we can go
I know.
down.
You don't have to, but if you want to, I'm all
Oh,
ears.
it's that honestly, and that's probably where it comes from, is my past experiences, my past relationship experiences. The watching behaviors in those people in my
Yeah.
past, like, oh, they're victims all the time. Like, they're always complaining and they're always
Mhm.
comparing and they're always, like that. Yeah, I've seen it. I lived it. It's what I knew. So it's what I'm gonna go for first because it's what's safe. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's ugly when you really face the reality. It's so ugly. And it's just, ugh, you feel kind of gross and you're like, well, again, I speak for myself. Like, when I realized how right he was, and then I
Yes.
started thinking back and I'm like, damn, okay, this sucks. Like, I didn't like, I felt very, words are hard today.
I know.
Felt very not my best.
Right. Almost like
Like,
prideful.
Yeah, like, oh, this is ego. It was ego. It was all ego. I was just
Yeah.
being egotistical, like, I need this, and I don't have that.
Mhm.
I, and it's like, what a spoiled little brat you are. I was like, ew, like that's bratty behavior. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
I've got to work on this. Like I've got to and then it hasn't happened. Like it's not a thing. Like we laugh now. Like we've been having more fun than we ever have before.
Wow.
Like because and again, this was an incident that happened in 2020, 4 years ago, where, a lot of that internal work has happened. And it's like, all right, cool. Like if anything goes wrong for a prep, it's me. It's all me. Like it's
Yeah.
nobody else.
Personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility. So I developed a very immense sense. And I had personal responsibility, I had developed that from the perspective of being a doctor. It's like, yeah, you have to have some personal responsibility to have that kind of responsibility over other living things.
Right.
But then you kind of downplay it toward yourself. So once I realized like I really have to own this and troubleshoot why I'm sabotaging and why do I feel this way. Let me really look at my resources. Let me really look at the information here that I'm perceiving as not enough or not adequate for me to succeed. Let me
Mhm.
really look at it, take a step outside that box, and then fix it. That's it. That I just have to fix it. So he was the catalyst to call me out on my nonsense. And then
Wow.
I've been fixing it. And now, like I said, now if something goes awry, it's purely 100% me because he's not going to sabotage me. He's not.
Mm, I love that perspective. I'm
Mm-mm.
so glad that that was jogged in my memory because that was so insightful what you just shared, all of it. And I always love our rabbit holes and everything that can be expressed. And I want to give you the floor to share or talk about anything that we haven't yet that you were like, I really wanted to share this or talk about it today.
Ooh, oh man. Okay. Well, I had mentioned before, like never ever taking your body and your ability to do anything with it for granted. Um, as I had mentioned before, I had an experience where I could not use my body, not by my own will, and it was horrific. Now, the one thing, because this is going to apply to everybody, and no matter where you are in this bodybuilding world, right? Whether you're an outsider looking in and you want to know more about the sport, good, great. Like learn about it. It's weird at the beginning, but trust us,
Yeah,
it's a place to be, right? You'll find your
it is.
people, you learn the habits, learn lifestyles that suit you for longevity. Um, again, reiterating that you can always change your reason why you're doing something. You can, it's your life. You can change anything you want about it, but having personal responsibility and understanding why you want to change your life, you got to look deep down. Like, do you want to change your life? Like kind of to echo on the whole victim mentality thing. Do you want to change your life because, do you have to change everything about your life because it's not going the way you want it to go? Or are you kind of constantly just sitting there complaining about things, but life's pretty good and you're
Mm,
just not owning up to taking responsibility for those little things that slip through the crack for you.
yeah.
Um, so I want people to really, because it applies to the sport, right? It applies to life. If there's something that isn't right, change it. Please, like change it. Um, also, making sure that you really educate yourselves on your division, meaning what it's going to take for you to get the look of your division. So
Mm,
whether you're in bikini, whether you're in wellness, or any of the more muscular divisions in the women's league. Men, obviously, you guys know what you're getting yourself into. Well, hopefully, obviously, but I think it's an important message to share that it's really, really, really wink, wink important for you to understand your division from the perspective of what it's going to take for your body, your physique to get to that point, whether it's time, the effort that you're going to put in as far as the way that you train. You got to be really honest. Like if you don't like to train heavy, maybe a more muscular division, maybe it's not going to be the best idea for you, right?
good point.
Um, being realistic about your age. Okay, so this is a tricky one, but I have to put it out there because I am
Mm.
its representative. It is never too late. I just saw a woman with her pro card and she's like 70
So
over the week.
awesome.
So what she's going to do with it, who cares? It's hers. Who
Right.
cares? It's hers. And she is in great shape. So the age thing, it's never too early and it's never too late, ever. I've said it several times during our conversation. If I could go back 10 years when I started and speak to myself when I was 33, I would have said, girl, keep going, get in there, keep going, but take a break,
Mm.
take a break. And then one factor, and this is real vulnerable, but I'm going to talk about it because I don't know what God has in the plans for me right now about this. Women, we are in a tough spot as competitors if we are in these reproductive years. And so, one thing that I also want women to think about now, if you've already had your kids and you're like that 30-something-year-old or you're that, or older Masters competitor, like girls, go at it. It's your turn. Like mama's done cooked the eggs and baked everything. Like she look the hatchlings are grown up, they're fledglings. I don't know where the food analogies were going
I
with,
know about who would go.
you know, like she's done all the cooking. She's out of the kitchen. Let's get it
Mhm.
turn. So that's one thing. But for the younger women that are thinking about children, so this is going to be, and this may sound like it's coming out left field. I don't have any children. I have furry children. But one other thing that if I could go back and tell that 33-year-old me, I would have told her, hey, you think you maybe want some kids? Why don't you go ahead and have them? You went
Mm.
pro pretty quickly. Go ahead and have them because the stage is always here for us. You may get to a point in your life where you're a little more mature and we only have a certain amount of reserves. And then maybe that's not an opportunity biologically for you. So I just want that. I don't think anybody talks about this.
No one talks about it, and I'm so glad you're saying that.
And there are athletes like two-time Miss Olympia, Miss Angelica Teixeira. She took time away. She started a little earlier, but she's now 40, by the way,
Mhm.
in case people don't know. She's 40. So she took time away, had two beautiful little baby girls, and she's back. So it's doable. Like you're not going to lose your fertility if you're careful and understand what you are doing. You shouldn't be losing your fertility over the sport. But it's just something that, again, nobody talks about. And like I said, if I could go back, I would say, hey, maybe think about, yeah, take that time off, have your kids if that's what's in the works for you, and then hey, come back because the stage is always freaking here. Bodybuilding survived the pandemic. It's gonna survive everything.
Yeah, true.
So that's one thing that like really important message that I didn't know if I was going to kind of touch base on. Again, I don't know what's in the works for me, but it's God's plan. And remember, if you can't have kids biologically, there are plenty of kids out there that need parents. But it's just one of those things that, again, I've never, ever heard anybody talk about. And I
No.
know we have a broad audience of various ages. So it's just something that I thought was pretty important to, if it's something that you want in your life, don't wait too late. Yes,
Yeah.
there are medical miracles out there, but just like stuff sneaks up on you and things change pretty
Mm.
rapidly. And the more in tune you become with your body, the better. So take advantage of that. And that's what I got to say there.
That's
That
so
I didn't expect that.
I'm so glad you said that, Jess, because that usually, like, when it comes up on the podcast, it's because someone took time off to have children and then they came back and they won their pro card. And so I talked to them about that. But it's rare we get to hear it from the perspective of looking back. I would have told myself that.
Mhm.
And I think about just women in general, we're under a lot of, I think, pressure in our late 20s, early 30s. It's like, okay, you got to find your partner and your time is limited. You've got this amount of time because if you want to have kids, then you got to find the partner that you're going to have kids with and you want to have enough time to establish that they're the right partner. And that's for me, I idolized marriage and kids to the point where I got myself in an unhealthy relationship. And I've not talked about them on podcast, and I'm not opening that door right now. Close it. Um, well, we peeked inside, we saw it, and that's good enough. So because of that, it like led me to do other things. So I think there's a lot of pressure when you want that, and then you add competing on top of that, and you're like, at least I'm looking at it like I've been in this for, it's gonna be 10 years. I told myself like after this 10th year, like if I do believe I'll win my pro card one day. If it's next year, great. If it's 10 years from now, great. But I made a promise to myself that it would not get in the way of that goal. And so I'm glad you brought that up because it's very difficult to step back and go, well, you do have a decision to make. And at some point, like you have to prioritize one thing more. And there are a lot of competitors who do say, I don't know if I want kids. I think I do, but I'm not sure. And I want to focus on this show. And then they get to that show and they're like, well, now I want to focus on this show. And then they get to that show and then it's the Olympia. And then and that's another 6 months away. Right. Yeah. And then it never
Yeah.
ends.
And another, and then another, and then another, and then setbacks. And then, oh, maybe your health is not ideal. And again, this is in no way, shape, or form sharing anything I've personally experienced to the T, but it's like things to think about. Because, like you said, in the 20s, it was like school, 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 school. I was in no position to have kids.
Mhm.
Hey, it happens, life happens. And then my 30s, it's like, oh, it's me time. Oh, cool. One more show, one more show. Ooh, another. Ooh, another. Oh, another. Ooh, I made it to the Olympia. Oh, well, not stopping now, right? So, it's just, yeah, it's kind of personal, but it's that maybe someone needs to hear it. Maybe
Yeah.
someone needs to hear it because, you know, we have windows. We're women. Sadly, we have windows.
Mhm.
And things can become more challenging later on. So you just have to really have that conversation with your partner, your husband, make sure it's the right decision. Like if you are in a relationship, open communication with your partner and what you both want has to be there. Because if you are an athlete that wants to go as far as you can go, then it's a conversation that you need to have.
Yeah.
It needs
Such a
time.
good point.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave
Good. I
that's the
love that.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And I'm so glad you brought all of those things up and you touched on that. And I feel like you've already shared this. You've given a lot of insight into what you would tell yourself 10 years ago. How would you summarize the last 10 years of your competing journey? And what do you hope it will maybe contribute to your next however many years?
It has been a beautiful roller coaster. It has been just this beautiful, wild, and I don't do roller coasters very
We don't do emergencies and we don't do.
but then we'll do random things like jump off cliffs. Like I've done that. So it's like,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, time and place. It was in South Africa. I kept my eyes closed the whole time. So it's like I missed out on watching it all, but I felt the feeling of the falling.
Wow.
It's like this beautiful, for me, it's been this beautiful ride of like little like baby roller coaster, right? Where it's like, oh, the excitement and then the up and then the down and the up and then the down. And then we got to the big coasters, right? And then now we're going upside down and then we kind of fell off at one point and then they had to shut the thing down for maintenance and like now we're hopping back on. That's what it's been for me. It's just been this crazy like ocean waves where they're kind of unpredictable and then you get to kind of a steady point,
Mm.
right? And then you have to get out of the water for a minute. So I'm trying to find all these different ways to describe it, but in a nutshell, it's been up and it's been down. However, I wouldn't trade it any single part of it. There was not a show experience wasted here. There is not an experience, not a single day goes by that I'm like, I regret that. No. Could I have done some things differently? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it all had to happen the way it had to happen for me to get to this point and be able to share the experience. So I wouldn't change a thing, but it's been a pretty fun journey of self-discovery, where the sport has served me in many ways. It's served
Mhm.
me from initially, it was the band-aid, right? It was
Yeah.
I need to do something for me. This is the thing for me. Cool. Okay. Now, oh, oops, I lost me. Ooh, oh, I gotta figure out who I am, right? Because I put this version of me on a shelf, but the sport was still here. The lifestyle, the habits, right? The sport, well, we have to say the sport, but the stage part was over there. But the habits kept me healthy, kept me sane, and kept me alive, moving,
Mhm.
basically. So it's God, it's been a beautiful ride. And
So
then
beautiful.
that's been the past 10 years. Lots of lessons, lots of joy, lots of failure, lots of failure. I don't even know how many shows total I've done. I need to count that up. Probably close to 50. I don't even know. But I've only won wait, 5 times? Wait, hold on. 4 or 5 times. I've only won 4 or 5 times. That's it in 10 years. I want people to realize that. Every show has been valuable. Last call out, first call out, doesn't matter. Every single show has been amazing. Whether I've got to see a new place that I've never been to, like I got to go to Romania, I went to Japan in 2019, like life experiences. Um, Learning limitations that I have, whether it's with mood, like
Mhm.
or limitations in my patience or limitations in other things, and then learning what my strengths are, learning how to use the sport and the structure and the skill to help everything around the sport be better. So it did help me be a better doctor. It helped me be a better wife. It helped me be a better friend. Because when I'm there in the capacity of not being an athlete, but being a wife, I'm a wife. I'm not an athlete. If I'm a doctor, I'm a doctor. I'm not an athlete. Okay, when I'm an athlete, I'm an athlete. When I'm a coach, I'm a coach, right? The people that I've been able to meet, the friends, the family, it's
Mhm.
like irreplaceable, like nothing can replace it. Um, and then that reaffirming that sense of accomplishment, that like, man, I've done this. Whether it's been a win the show or come out not winning, I'm always proud of myself.
Yeah.
And I'm always excited to learn what can be better. Every show I've won, I always get the feedback. Like, all right, what are we doing now? Like, okay, I won this, but what do I need to get better at, right? What body part needs what can I make better? So it's always about that journey of becoming better. Um, so it's been a beautiful, beautiful past decade of self-discovery, learning what I'm capable of. And so now future, what do I want to set up? It's legacy. It's legacy, being the first Masters Olympia title holder. Um, is pretty special. And sometimes I don't realize how special it is. And I hope the world sees how special it is,
So
to
special.
accomplish something like this at, above the age of 40 is very motivating. And that's my hope, is like it motivates people to get their butts moving. Like if they see little old me, I'm not doing anything that crazy. Like I go weight train 1 hour a day and my cardio varies and I eat clean. Like it's not that crazy, It's attainable in my division, at least. We'll talk about bikini, but you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I want to develop whatever it is because I don't know what I'm doing yet, right? And I'm just being transparent. I'm just going through the motions, working on finding me, and I'm finding her. She's here. Get back on that stage at some point soon, because again, we started really, really, really late this season. Um, and continue to be that representative even in the open divisions. Um, and help people see what can be done. So it's just continuing that mission, is accomplishing something great, not just for myself and the personal satisfaction of it. Because now I can't deny that I'm a competitive person. Like I can't.
That's right.
I used to always downplay, like I'm not competitive because I'm not the competitor that wants to like crap on people to be the winner. No, like let's all do this together. But on stage in my brain, I'm like,
Hmm.
right, if I feel like it's that day where it's like, oh, I'm on it, like yeah, this is the look. But like I can't deny the competitive nature in me, and so I always want to just bring something better and then push the other girls to be better, just like Ashley
Hmm.
did that for me. She does that for me.
Exactly.
And I always thank her, every time I see her. I'm like, listen, I still have the cutout from the Oxygen magazine from when you won the Olympia. Like proposed to me the night you won the Olympia. That's weird, I know, but it's just how it happened. And then being on stage with her, as accomplished as she is, it's like that makes me better because I know I have
Yeah.
to be on my A game because I know she will. So if I'm on my A game, I want everybody else. Like I want to win competitive shows, like I want to do well and I want others to think that way. Like
Hmm.
do an easy show that's small. Well, they're not easy, right? But just do a
Right.
small show. The odds are more likely. No, do a big, really competitive show and win that. And then you are established, right? So that's kind of
Yeah.
and that's how Chicago felt for me.
Oh, 100%.
It felt for me. I was like, this is a big one. Oh boy. Oh, and then I won it. So I want people to kind of whatever in my weird way, in the way I live my life, if anybody can get something positive out there from my habits, that if I could just help one person, that's all I need.
Love
I don't know,
that.
like I say legacy, but that's legacy is like if I can help at least one person every day, like that's awesome. Like that's a blessing.
That is
So
a blessing.
yeah, I don't know, like the tangible things, like the business plan, like the 10-year plan. No, I haven't thought of all that. But I mean, I have ideas, but from the
Yeah.
perspective of what I pray for every day is like, all right, God, use me, shine your light through me. And if it helps someone else see something in them, great. That's a start. So that's my goal.
That's so amazing. Yeah, I can say you've helped me so much just by even being in my life.
Oh no, oh no.
Now I'm gonna cry.
Yes. Oh no. Yes. Jess is a very special woman, you guys. So just know that everything she does is all heart. And having conversations with her is very special. So thank you, Celeste, for
Thank
having
you.
me again and for your friendship as well.
Of course. Yeah, that's the best part. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to have you on again and everything that's culminated between when we first connected to now. It's really been amazing. And I'm so inspired by you. And I'm so glad we get to bring you on. I was like, ooh, I wonder if Miss Bikini Olympia from the Masters 2023 first ever is gonna actually want to be back on the show.
Yes.
Duh. She said, duh.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm so grateful, Jess. So before we sign off, how can people follow you and connect with you and even inquire about lifestyle coaching and posing coaching?
thank you so much. Yes, so on Instagram, and we're gonna get active again real soon because coming, wink, wink.
Yep.
Yes, nice. So look out for me in a stage near you soon. Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at JessFitVet, JESS, F as in Frank, IT, V as in veterinarian, ET, on Instagram. If and DMs there get crazy. So if you are interested in posing or lifestyle coaching, you can email me at again, JessFitVet@gmail.com. And then I'll get back to you and then we'll get the ball rolling. But that's how you find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And we'll put all of that in the show notes page. You guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening first thing on Friday, it'll be at the top of the page. If you're listening in the future, just scroll down to the category section and it's all alphabetized there. And anything that Jess has been featured on or in will be in that category. So, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for listening. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, at night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.